It all begins in the year 2607, when the demonic race completely conquers every territory of humanity. In the midst of this total destruction, the only survivors left are the protagonist Chunhai and an SSE rank assassin. However, all of this chaos actually started 7 years earlier, when several demon kings suddenly appeared out of nowhere. One of them, Lenyu, mocks humanity, calling them pathetic and fragile trash. Then, with a cold and merciless expression, he prepares to end everything, declaring that the time has come for Chunhai to fulfill his one true purpose. A sinister red energy begins to gather in the demon king's hand, radiating overwhelming malice. His intention is clear: to devour Chunhai and absorb all of his power. Without even a moment of hesitation, he unleashes a devastating attack straight at him. As Chunhai is swallowed by the violent surge of energy, memories begin to flood his mind: his sister, his companions, his master, and all the precious people he has lost. Consumed by rage and pain, he shouts that it was the demons who took everything from him, and because of that, he swears that he will drag the demon king down to hell with him, even if it is the last thing he ever does. In that moment, Chunhai activates his supreme ability, Timeless Arc, releasing an unimaginable amount of power. The demon king is thrown into complete shock, his body frozen, unable to move in the face of such overwhelming energy. Meanwhile, Chunhai's body begins to shine intensely, his power reaching its limit as he prepares to explode and take everything with him. At the very moment of the explosion, more memories flash before his eyes: his sister, covered in wounds, his master, and finally his parents during a warm and happy moment from his childhood. Regret fills his heart as he laments not being strong enough to protect any of them. Amid the blinding light, the demon king curses the human race for being capable of such a terrifying act. Chunhai, filled with regret, thinks about how everything might have been different if he had found the demons lair sooner. Maybe he wouldn't have lost everything so quickly. Then, after the explosion, everything fades into darkness, until a faint light appears in the void. Suddenly, Chunhai opens his eyes, completely confused. He finds himself lying on a bed in an unfamiliar room. Sitting up abruptly, he mutters in shock, "Wait, shouldn't I be dead?" Looking around, trying to understand his surroundings, he slowly gets up and walks toward the window. To his surprise, he realizes that he is in the infirmary of a school. This leaves him utterly stunned, because the last thing he remembers is a world completely destroyed. After some time, Chunhai begins to accept this impossible reality somehow. He has returned 10 years into the past, back to his college days. Just then, a strange sound wave materializes in front of him, followed by a translucent screen announcing that the power of gluttony has been successfully integrated. Confused but curious, he quickly grabs his phone and checks the date, May 16th. At that moment, everything becomes clear. He has returned to the year 2057, exactly 3 years before the arrival of the demon kings. He remembers that in 3 years, the first demon, known as Rathrat, will appear, and that will mark the true beginning of the end. He was the one who opened the gates of the underworld, allowing the demonic invasion to begin. That moment became the starting point of humanity's total destruction, and the very reason Chunhai lost everyone he loved. But now, things could be different. If he defeats Rat, he might be able to stop the gates of the underworld from ever opening. Still, he pauses, questioning what exactly is part of this so-called power of gluttony. The strange screen has been floating in front of him ever since he woke up. When he touches it, it expands and begins displaying various pieces of information. Jiaoso, level 1. All attributes at 100. He is left confused, as he has never seen anything like this before. In his past life, he only fought using his awakened power, something extremely rare. The university he attends only recruits students who have the potential to awaken. However, in his previous life, he never awakened at all, becoming nothing more than a punching bag for others. Suddenly, the screen begins to glitch, and a class card appears, showing complete information. Chunhai immediately recognizes it was the exact class he had in his past life. He feels a surge of power flowing through his body and wonders if he has inherited his former strength. The class card continues to float before him. Just then, the door burst open. The one who enters is Malong, a flower enchanter of rank level. His friend rushes toward him with concern, asking if he is feeling better. Chunhai replies that he is fine and quickly realizes that he is the only one who can see the floating interface. Malong is shocked to see that all of Chunhai's injuries have completely disappeared. At that moment, Chunhai remembers this is Malong, his roommate. In his past life, Malong died on the 3rd day of the invasion. Seeing him alive right now confirms one thing without a doubt: he has truly gone back in time. Suddenly, Malong remembers the ranking test and pulls Chunhai along, urging him to get ready. He insists that even without awakening, the test is important for graduation, and drags him out of the room. Outside, the university courtyard is bathed in the warm glow of the sunset. Many students are practicing their awakened abilities, while others are casually playing football to pass the time. Chunhai quietly remarks that it has been a long time since he has seen so many people alive. Malong is startled by such a strange comment and tells him to hurry up. But Chunhai can't stop thinking about how he lost everything. If he does nothing, that same future of despair will repeat itself. Because of that, he makes a firm decision he will act immediately and grow stronger as fast as possible. In this era, the only way to level up is by defeating monsters and clearing dungeons. The problem is that almost all demonic dungeons are controlled by powerful guilds. He analyzes his stats and compares them to the awakened students around him. Based on his past experience, he tries to estimate what rank he would achieve in the test. Looking at Malong, he becomes certain that he is already much stronger than him now. Suddenly, a basketball comes flying out of nowhere and slams straight into Malong's face, knocking him to the ground before he can even react. A group of guys sitting on the stairs notices them and immediately recognizes the two. Their leader smirks and comments that they seem to have recovered pretty well from last time. Malong freezes in fear and stammers that they were just unlucky. Meanwhile, Chunhai stares coldly at the group of bullies. Their leader smirks with disdain and says he already knew the two were tougher than they looked. Then he complains that they should have brought drinks, since they knew he would be there playing. Malong panics and hurriedly says he will go buy the drinks right away. But Chunhai stops him, calmly saying that none of this is their fault. As he looks at the bully, memories from the past come rushing back. He remembers how these same guys used to shove his head underwater, claiming they were helping him. Back then, the leader and his group would beat him mercilessly. Even though Malong was terrified, he always tried to defend him, but it never worked. The leader, Zhou Zhang, would laugh and say he was just helping to stimulate the protagonist awakening. While Chunhai suffered, the others would laugh endlessly, and once he passed out, they would grow bored and simply walk away. Every time, Malong would run to him, finding him lying on the ground, battered and broken. Chunhai would cry, wondering why they never left him alone. With that memory, he realizes something important. The evil in this world doesn't exist only in demonic dungeons, but also within humanity itself. Back in the present, Zhou Zhang repeats that they should have brought drinks. Malong, trembling with fear, offers once again to go buy them. But Chunhai interrupts him and says that the ones who should be apologizing are them. The bully is caught off guard by this sudden change in attitude. Malong, completely panicked, asks what he is saying. At that moment, Gan Cheng, a flower warrior, steps forward with glowing hands. But Chunhai meets him with a cold, unwavering gaze. He remembers that this guy only acts so arrogantly because of his powerful older brother. Around them, the surrounding students begin whispering, mocking them and calling them the weakest and most useless in the school. Gon steps right up to Chunhai, his face just inches away, and asks in a threatening tone, "What do you think you're doing?" Chunhai simply replies in a calm and steady voice, telling him to stop bothering them. Enraged, the bully shouts that he needs another beating and throws a punch. But in the next instant, Chunhai blocks the attack with unbelievable ease. The fist stops midair, leaving Gon completely stunned. The crowd around them falls silent, their jaws dropping in disbelief. Everyone knew that Chunhai hadn't even awakened. So, how was this possible? Furious, the bully curses at him and demands to know if he dares to challenge him. Chunhai smirks slightly and replies that he will use him to test his new powers. At that moment, his class transformation completes. He becomes an electric assassin, his attributes drastically enhanced. Malong is left in shock, asking when his friend had awakened. Meanwhile, Chunhai stands still, yellow lightning crackling all around his body, radiating overwhelming power. Gongsheng, unwilling to back down, activates his indestructible demonic armor. With a furious roar, he charges forward, shouting that he will make Chunhai taste his own fist. But Chunhai effortlessly dodges the attack and prepares a swift counter-strike. With a clean, precise strike, Chunhai's fist slams directly into the bully's face. The impact is so powerful that the guy is sent flying across the courtyard. Both the crowd and Malong are left in absolute shock at the unbelievable scene. Lying on the ground, Gongsheng curses loudly and accuses Chunhai of using a cheap shot. Then he yells at his friends, asking if they're just going to stand there and watch. However, one of them is so terrified that he can barely speak because now Chunhai looks overwhelmingly intimidating. Seeing this, another bully loses his temper and charges forward, shouting that he will finish him. But Chunhai effortlessly grabs his arm mid-attack, stopping him completely. With his hand glowing in yellow lightning, he twists the bully's wrist, making him scream in pain. Chunhai looks at him coldly and says he is far too weak to face him. Then, without hesitation, he delivers a devastating punch straight to the center of his face. The force of the blow is so immense that both of them are thrown backward. The bully crashes violently into a concrete bench and instantly blacks out, his face completely ruined. He lies there motionless, unable to even twitch. Witnessing this, the remaining lackeys turn and run away in fear. Malong stands frozen, his mouth wide open, unable to believe what he just saw. He can't help but wonder when his friend became this unbelievably strong. Chunhai then glances at his stats and quickly reaches a few conclusions. First, he can transform into an electric assassin whenever he wants. Second, even at level 1, he is already stronger than someone ranked E. However, his exact rank still remains a mystery. There is also another problem despite the fight. His attributes haven't increased at all. This makes him question whether he needs to actually finish off his opponents in order to gain experience. Meanwhile, Malong and the surrounding students shout desperately at him to stop. But Chun-Hai ignores them all. He forms a blade of lightning in his hand and presses it against the bully's neck. He wonders if the way to gain experience is the same as in his past life. Without hesitation, he prepares to end the man's life right there. But suddenly, a female voice interrupts him. It is Lingu, the vice president of the student council. She calmly states that the punishment is already enough and assures him that after this, the guy will never dare to lay a finger on them again. Hearing this, Chun-Hai withdraws his attack. The bully collapses onto the ground, completely beaten and unconscious. Deep down, Chun-Hai knows he wasn't actually going to kill him, but he needed to draw a clear line. Because people like that would never stop causing trouble unless they were truly intimidated. The remaining lackeys, watching from a distance, are completely terrified. In stunned silence, they watch as the two so-called weakest students walk away together. Meanwhile, Lingu observes them leaving, a faint smile forming on her lips. Later that night, inside the university's male dormitory, Malon excitedly tries to convince the others that Chun-Hai has truly awakened. He explains how Chun-Hai completely humiliated Gongsheng and how even the gang no longer dares to look at them. However, the roommate Shangzu, a core mage, refuses to believe the story. Grabbing Malon, he questions why someone that strong would still need train. Another roommate, Zhang Yu, a flower enchanter, also thinks Malon has gone crazy. They complain that the four of them ended up in the same dormitory because they are considered the worst students of the year. Shangzu scoffs and says that he is the only combat type among them, which naturally makes him number one. He looks down on Chun-Hai, calling him weak, and already believes he is strong enough to join a club. Zhang Yu, however, reminds everyone that the ranking test is tomorrow and that everything will become clear then. Meanwhile, inside a ranky demonic training dungeon, a well-dressed and imposing figure steps out of a glowing portal. It is Gontin, the president of the student council and the older brother of the bully. He calmly informs his team that today's training is over. The members bow respectfully as he turns, his expression cold and serious. As he exits the dungeon, he finds his younger brother, Gonin, standing there wrapped in bandages, clearly waiting for him. With his face badly bruised, Gonin angrily complains about what happened. The president listens quietly, then responds in a calm but chilling tone that he understands Zan is his brother. He will take care of it himself. Elsewhere, Gontin is having dinner with Lingu at a luxurious restaurant. She asks him how he plans to deal with Chun-Hai. The president questions whether Chun-Hai is truly as strong as the rumors claim. Lingu reminds him that fewer than 10 students in the entire academy have reached rank D, and since most students don't have access to dungeons, they can never reach that level. Her words carry weight, hinting that Chun-Hai's sudden strength is something far from normal. At the same time, Chun-Hai is pushing himself through intense training. He runs 20 kilometers with 100 kilograms strapped to his back, knowing that basic physical training is essential for strengthening the body of an awakened individual. Even so, he understands that he is still far from where he needs to be. His thoughts drift to the year 2060, the year the Demon King Ratra appeared. That was the day his only remaining family, his sister Sai, lost her life. It was also that same demon who opened the gates of the underworld, allowing the others to invade. Standing in the pouring rain, his face soaked, Chun-Hai sets his first major goal, to defeat the Demon King Rat. He knows that over the next 3 years, that monster will only grow stronger. Suddenly, his phone vibrates inside his jacket. He pulls it out and sees that he's receiving an important call. To his shock, the caller is his sister, Sai, the very person he believed he had already lost forever. His hands tremble as he answers, unsure of what to say. On the other end, she casually asks why he had called her so many times. Cheerfully, she mentions that if she wins the prize she's aiming for, it will solve their rent problems. Noticing his silence, she asks why he isn't responding. With tears filling his eyes, Chun-Hai finally speaks, saying it's nothing serious, just that it feels like it's been a long time since he heard her voice. Confused, she replies that they had just seen each other 2 days ago, then quickly hangs up. In that moment, Chun-Hai fully understands everything has truly started over. With renewed determination, he begins running again, faster and harder than before. This time, he is not training just for power, he is doing it to protect everything he once lost. Later, back at the dormitory, he takes a shower, feeling his younger body gradually adapting. Wrapped in a robe, he begins to think about his next step. If he wants to level up, he must enter the demonic dungeons, but all of them are controlled. Chun-Hai wonders how he is supposed to fight monsters if he has no access to any dungeons. Then, he remembers the mysterious power of gluttony. Suddenly, the system begins to activate, and without warning, it pulls his consciousness inside. In an instant, Chun-Hai feels himself falling freely through a strange digital void. A red, ominous energy drags him downward at incredible speed until he crashes into an unfamiliar place right in front of a massive, sinister tower. Just moments ago, he had been peacefully asleep, but now he finds himself in this bizarre and dark landscape. Completely disoriented, Chun-Hai looks around, trying to understand where he is. His eyes fix on the towering structure before him, its presence overwhelming and eerie. He wonders what purpose such a tower could possibly serve. Suddenly, strange sounds echo through the area, and grotesque creatures begin emerging from the ground. A system screen appears, identifying them as Hank's death dogs. At that moment, Chun-Hai realizes he might be inside a demon lair. Immediately, another system notification appears, announcing that his class is changing. Lightning burst from his hand as the transformation completes. He becomes a lightning assassin. Without hesitation, he decides to deal with the monsters in front of him. One of the creatures lunges at him, but he effortlessly dodges the attack. In the next instant, he counters with a powerful kick, striking the beast with overwhelming force. As soon as the creature is defeated, he receives 3 items called Forest of Death. With his current strength, Chun-Hai continues fighting without any difficulty. He quickly realizes that dealing with these ranky monsters is incredibly easy for him now. This confirms one thing: this is not a dream. After gaining 52 experience points, he levels up to level 2, feeling a surge of satisfaction. His status window updates, showing that he has reached level 2 and gained a bonus of 5 points in all attributes. At that moment, Chun-Hai finally understands he has gained access to an entire demon lair all for himself. Just then, a larger creature appears. Instead of hesitating, he decides to use this place to test his limits. He attacks the monster head-on, defeats it, and gains even more experience, reaching level 3. After the battle, a strange message appears above the corpse of the defeated creature. Chun-Hai stares at it in confusion, completely puzzled by what he has seen. The word Devourer stands out, making him question what it could possibly mean. Suddenly, a bright light begins to glow in the palm of his hand. He wonders if this is the true power of gluttony. In the next moment, a red energy pulls the essence of the monster directly into his hand. Chun-Hai closes his fist, absorbing all of the creature's power. The monster's body then transforms into a card containing all of its information. Realizing what just happened, Chun-Hai is left stunned. He understands that he can devour his enemies and turn them into his own classes. His eyes widen in disbelief. This ability is exactly what he needed. At that moment, he recalls how in the past he recalls the moment when he first activated this mysterious power. And at the same time, memories of the Demon King he faced in the future come rushing back. That power was actually the ability of the Demon King Lanwei. Now he finally understands the power of gluttony once belonged to that king, and somehow he has stolen it for himself. Normally, a person can only possess a single class, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. But now, Chun-Hai holds 2 classes at once. A bold thought forms in his mind. If he continues devouring monsters, then he might be able to gain countless classes and potentially limitless power. As he processes this new reality, he begins to question why he was given such an ability, and what the true purpose of that demonic tower behind him could be. Suddenly, a terrifying force slams into him, sending him flying backward. A crushing pressure weighs down on his body, making it hard to even breathe. What the hell is happening? He mutters, struggling to stand. Then, from the top of the staircase, a sinister figure appears. In a cold, eerie voice, it says that he has finally arrived, that it has been waiting for him. The skeletal figure, cloaked in darkness, calls him by name Chun-Hai. In this world, awakened individuals are ranked based on their combat power, from rank E all the way up to rank S. Yet Chun-Hai can barely remain standing under the overwhelming aura of the beam before him. He remembers that in his previous life, he had nearly reached rank S, but right now, he is barely around rank D, and the creature standing in front of him is undoubtedly an S-rank monster. The gap in power between them is beyond enormous. He cannot understand how a place like this demon lair could contain such a terrifying being, nor how it knows his name. Even after exchanging several blows, Chun-Hai realizes something chilling. The enemy had countless chances to kill him, yet it didn't. Instead, the monster simply strikes him with brute force, sending him flying again and again. As he crashes onto the ground, battered and bruised, Chun-Hai notices something strange. The enemy is deliberately avoiding his vital points. It is not trying to kill him, only to break him down. The boss stares at him and asks if he plans to keep resisting. With his entire body aching, Chun-Hai understands the monster wants him to surrender. Then, the creature offers him a choice. Stay here and protect the demonic tower at its side. But with a determined gaze, Chun-Hai rejects the idea instantly. There is no way he would ever choose to remain trapped in this hellish place. In response, the boss attacks, releasing a beam of light that pierces straight through his body. Chun-Hai is thrown into complete shock by the severe wound he receives. The monster coldly asks if he really thought he would be spared, explaining that it had only shown patience because Chun-Hai was the only one capable of reaching this place. Moments later, the boss releases a dark energy that spreads into the fallen monsters around them. The entire area becomes engulfed in a sinister aura as the creature asked one final time, will he stay or be crushed without mercy? Despite his injuries, lightning begins to surge across Chun-Hai's body. His decision has already been made. With a fierce shout, he declares that his choice is to defeat the monster right here and now. The creature finds his words laughable and charges forward with its weapon. But this time, Chun-Hai blocks the attack. His eyes sharpen with focus as he prepares for his next move. During the fight, he has noticed a pattern in the enemy's attacks. Before each strike, There is a delay of 0.4 seconds, just enough time for him to predict the trajectory and dodge successfully. And after every attack, there is a brief opening of 0.2 seconds. Now, he plans to exploit that very gap, while the enemy is left exposed. Seizing that brief opening, Chunhai forms a blade of lightning and thrusts it forward, piercing straight through the boss's heart. Though it isn't a fatal blow, the strike is enough to paralyze the monster for a few crucial seconds. Knowing the enemy is far too fast to finish off directly, Chunhai immediately activates God of Thunder and dashes away. Those few seconds are all he needs to escape. As he runs, he reveals that he had been carefully observing the only source of light in this strange place. Drawing closer to it, he stretches out his hand, believing it to be the exit. But just as he reaches it, the light suddenly disappears. The boss calmly reveals that it was nothing more than an illusion, and that this place is not a demon lair at all. The creature then admits it is, impressed that Chunhai was able to discover its attack patterns so quickly. Finally, it reveals its true identity: Hacks of Purgatory, an S-rank warrior. The moment Chunhai sees its form, he is struck with recognition. It resembles one of the forms used by the Demon King he fought in the future. The monster explains that even in desperation, Chunhai is still capable of sharp analysis. Hearing this, memories of his final battle against the Demon King flood back into his mind. On that day, the king transformed into a terrifying ice demon, then into a massive ice dragon that attacked him relentlessly. He remembers how the king switched between multiple high-level classes, taking the form of a plant-like creature with countless tentacles, and even a being of pure light with overwhelming power. Chunhai recalls each of those forms clearly, and now he is certain one of them was exactly like the monster standing before him now. The Rakshasa he is facing is one of those devoured forms. At that moment, everything clicks. He realizes that this Rakshasa must have been devoured by the power of gluttony in the past, and since that power now resides within him, this entire place exists inside his own body. The monster praises his sharp mind and declares him worthy of everything within this realm. Confused, Chunhai asks what he means. Suddenly, a key appears before him, an SSS rank item known as the Key of the Void. Haxa explains that this is the key to the demonic tower. He reveals that the strongest demons devoured by the Demon King are all sealed within it. The creature tells Chunhai that he must devour them as well, use them all as fuel to grow stronger. Holding the key, Chunhai asks why the monster is helping him. Haxa answers that even among demons, there is good and evil, and the Demon King slaughtered his people. That is why he has been waiting for a chance at revenge. And now, Chunhai is that chance. Still confused, Chunhai asks who exactly he is talking about, but Haxa only replies that all the answers lie within the tower. Then, without hesitation, the monster offers his own power to Chunhai, so that the Demon Kings can one day be made to pay. Chunhai is left speechless, repeating the offer in disbelief. Haxa raises his voice and declares that from this moment on, Chunhai must become unstoppable. He warns him that the demons inside the tower will not be as easy to defeat as he was. That is why he must endure everything, conquer each one of them, and climb to the very top, until the day he devours every single Demon King, without exception. Because only a man with such unbreakable determination, someone who refuses to give up no matter the cost, is worthy of inheriting his power. And with those final words, monster disappears. The energy of Haxa slowly rises into the air and flows directly into Chunhai's hand. At that moment, the system announces that he has devoured the power, and his level surges all the way up to level 10. With a serious expression, Chunhai finally understands everything and accepts the will of the monster. Soon after, the Rakshasa card appears before him, and with firm determination, he swears that he will make the Demon Kings pay for everything they have done. Not long after, Chunhai suddenly wakes up in his room, startled by loud noises echoing around him. He slowly opens his eyes and sits up on his bed, still trying to process everything that just happened. Meanwhile, his roommates are rushing around in a panic, trying not to be late for the ranking test. Looking at himself, he notices that all his injuries are gone, making him wonder if it was all just a dream. But the system screen quickly proves otherwise. Everything was real. Even the items he obtained are still with him. Now at level 10, all his stats have increased to 150. He quietly wonders what his current rank might be. Suddenly, Zongzo approaches him with a mocking tone, calling out his name with a smirk. He mentions that he has heard rumors that Chunhai has suddenly become very strong. Malong tenses up immediately upon hearing this provocation. Zongzo then accuses Chunhai of trying to steal his position as the strongest in the dormitory. With a calm but serious gaze, Chunhai looks at him as he is challenged to prove himself during the ranking test. On the way, Zongzo casually eats snacks while showing off in front of others. He explains that everyone around them is low rank, but he considers himself to be at least mid-rank. A chart is displayed, showing that each rank is divided into 3 levels, and the gap between them is enormous. As the group continues walking toward the test area, Zongzo boasts that his rank has probably increased even further. As they get closer, Malong encouraged Chunhai to aim for rank C just to shock that arrogant guy. Chunhai simply listens, thinking quietly to himself as they walk across the university courtyard. Soon, all the students gather in front of a stage for the test ceremony. However, Zhangzhou suddenly becomes nervous when he sees Gongcheng's lackeys approaching with threatening expressions. One of them warns that it would be better if they stayed out of trouble. Shang Guo and Malong immediately feel uneasy, noticing that the group is staring directly at them. Chunhai, on the other hand, remains completely calm, standing still as he meets their gaze. Strangely, the lackeys begin to panic under his presence. Cold sweat forms on their foreheads, and moments later, they quickly run past him and bow respectfully to someone behind. Zhangzhou is left confused, wondering why they are suddenly acting so respectful. Meanwhile, Chunhai simply walks past them without paying any attention. Just then, a provocative voice calls out to him. It is Young Dian, a member of the student council who has heard about the earlier incident. He points out that Gongcheng is the younger brother of the student council president, Gongting. From a distance, Chunhai's friends recognize Young Dian and grow worried he is a powerful rank D and the right-hand man of the president. Young Dian smirks and says that he has a special way of identifying strong individuals from afar. But as he steps closer, he sneers and claims that all he can sense from Chunhai is a pathetic presence. Chunhai calmly responds, asking if he is some kind of dog. Curious, Young Dian shouts, demanding to know what he just said. But before anything escalates, a serious voice suddenly intervenes, ordering him to stop immediately. It is the student council president, Gongting. He states that he has already investigated everything that happened and that it is only fair for those who did wrong to pay the price. As he walks past, Gongting casts a cold glance at Chunhai in response. Chunhai meets his gaze without fear. President, with a cold and determined expression. Soon, a professor steps onto the stage and announces that the ranking test will begin shortly. Meanwhile, Gongting and Young Dian prepare themselves, and the president confidently believes that Chunhai is not a threat at all. From afar, someone is watching the entire ceremony from a high window. A woman is asked what brought her here to observe the test. With a faint smile, the blonde simply replies that this test might turn out to be very interesting. Back in the arena, the next to be tested is Zhang Zhu. His friends cheer him on, and with a confident look, he declares that he will finally see his true strength. He then steps into the testing portal to begin his evaluation. The test is conducted individually inside a controlled demonic training dungeon. Within it lies a demonic heart, capable of absorbing the energy of awakened individuals. The participant must release all of their energy in front of the heart. As Zhang Zhu unleashes his power, the energy flows intensely into the core, which absorbs everything completely. The heart then transfers the collected energy through cables to external machines. Outside, the system begins processing all the data. Finally, the result appears on the screen. His current rank is mid-tier. The professor notes it down but seems puzzled when the rest of the data takes longer to appear. In the audience, Malong grows excited, saying that the real highlight is coming, because the test doesn't just measure current rank, it also reveals a person's potential. Moments later, Zhang Zhu's potential result appears. Rank C with the test complete. Zhang Zhu feels disappointed that he hasn't improved in 2 years. He walks off and sits on the stairs, looking dejected, while his friends try to comfort him. The results so far show that most of the dorm students are rank E with potential C. Suddenly, the crowd is startled when the first rank D result of the year appears. A girl achieves a lower rank D with potential B, leaving everyone shocked. Some time later, Young Dian exits the test with a lower rank D and potential A. Zhang Zhu comments that this is already the 8th rank D result, surprising his friends even more. The teachers are clearly impressed. Such talent, even without real combat experience, is rare. Finally, it is time for the next candidate. All eyes turn toward the stage as the name is announced. Gongting, the president of the student council. The crowd erupts in excitement at the appearance of the young master of the Imperial Guild. Everyone knows that he reached rank D 2 years ago, and now they are eager to see just how far he has progressed. Inside the testing dungeon, the demonic heart begins to pulse as it awaits him. Slowly, it opens, revealing a massive eye staring directly at Gongting. With an air of superiority, he walks forward and places his hand on the heart. In his mind, he decides to hold back some of his power, saving his full strength for a grand display at graduation. Even so, he is certain that he will become the #1 in the history of the academy. Soon, the measurement begins. The professor notices something unusual. The potential indicator starts glowing yellow. Then, to everyone's astonishment, Gongting achieves a high rank D with S-level potential. The entire crowd explodes with excitement. Young Dian and his followers shout proudly that he is the first in the school's history to achieve such a result. Malong is left in shock and even a little envious, realizing that they have just witnessed history being made. The professors quickly confirm the result and decide to report it to higher authorities immediately. After all, an awakened individual with S-level potential is an extremely rare treasure, one that the state itself would protect. Gongting simply smiles faintly, enjoying the glory of his overwhelming result. High above, the university director watches the scene and quietly comments that many talented individuals have emerged this year. The director, Wan Long, calmly remarks on this, and then turns to the blonde woman beside him, saying that she must have already known about Gong Ting's S-level potential. However, she denies it, smiling faintly as she explains that she did not come here just to watch his performance. With a mysterious expression, she adds that she is actually more interested in someone else. At that moment, the next name is announced across the arena for everyone to hear. It is Chunhai. The entire place quiets down as he steps forward, preparing for his turn. Young Dian walks up to him with a mocking grin, telling him to at least bring some honor to their dormitory. Laughing loudly, he shouts that Chunhai better not end up with another low-rank result, calling everyone in their dorm useless trash who would only bring shame at graduation. Malong can't hold himself back and angrily shouts that Chunhai will blow his head off with his power. But Chunhai remains completely calm, without reacting to any of the provocations. He walks straight into the testing portal. In the audience, Zhang Zhu watches nervously, wondering if Chunhai can really pull this off. Inside the testing dungeon, Chunhai floats in front of the demonic heart, ready to be evaluated. The giant eye within the heart slowly opens, and for a brief moment, it seems almost surprised. Chunhai meets its gaze without fear, his expression steady and focused. For most students, this test is their only chance to prove their worth before graduation. The squad that ranks first will have all its members recruited by the Imperial Guild. That is why this ranking test is not just about determining rank, it is about forming the strongest possible teams. Meanwhile, Young Dian introduces a new member to their group, a lower rank D named Yanin. With him, the president's team is now complete, consisting of 10 members, 9 of whom are ranked D. In such an environment, the strongest team is bound to rise, and naturally, the weakest group will also be formed. Outside, time passes and Malong begins to grow anxious, wondering how long Chunhai has been inside. The crowd starts to mock him, saying his power must be so pathetic that it isn't even registering. Young Dian scoffs and says that the leftovers are nothing but trash, suggesting to Gong Ting that they should just leave for karaoke. The president casually agrees and tells him to gather the rest of the team. But suddenly, the ranking machine begins to display the result. To everyone's shock, Chunhai achieves a high rank. His dorm mates are left completely stunned. Malong jumps in excitement, shouting that he always knew Chunhai was strong. Gong Ting and Young Dian, however, are left speechless, unable to believe what they are seeing. Inside the dungeon, an error message suddenly appears on the system. Chunhai realizes that even his base, level 10 strength is already equivalent to a high rank. A faint blue glow appears in his eyes as he begins switching between his classes. He transforms into the Infernal Death King, deciding to test one of his weaker devoured classes. Immediately, the rank meter begins to flicker, and then updates again. To everyone's disbelief, his rank rises to mid-rank C. The entire crowd erupts in chaos. Malong and the others shout in disbelief, unable to understand what is happening. Gong Ting grows furious, insisting that rank C is impossible and that the machine must be broken. Even the professors are confused, questioning whether the system is malfunctioning. Inside, the demonic heart begins to tremble as if it is afraid. Chunhai quickly deduces that his stronger classes must be far beyond rank C without hesitation. He switches again, this time into Haxa of Purgatory, unleashing his true power. The moment this transformation occurs, the giant eye of the demonic heart widens in pure terror. Outside, the sky suddenly darkens. Purple clouds gather, forming a massive vortex above the arena. All the students look up in fear, unable to comprehend the bizarre phenomenon unfolding before them. Gong Ting and Young Dian stand frozen, completely speechless. Chunhai's friends whisper in shock, saying that a monster has been born in their dormitory. At the same time, the potential meter begins to malfunction. The readings fluctuate wildly before displaying an unimaginable result. His potential has reached an S level, and then continues rising. The professor shouts in disbelief, asking how it's even possible for another S-level potential to appear. Gong Ting collapses to his knees, unable to process what he is witnessing. Then, the system flashes a warning danger. The potential reading continues to rise, surpassing all known limits. The display glitches, showing an SS level before completely breaking down. The system can no longer measure it. It declares his potential undetectable, exceeding its maximum capacity. Young Dian screams in panic, even as blood drips from his nose in shock. In the next instant, the machine explodes into pieces, shattering along with the massive screen. The professors panic, shouting that the demonic heart has been overloaded. They rush into the dungeon, desperate to ensure the student inside is safe. But when they arrive, they are left stunned. The demonic heart is completely lifeless, destroyed beyond repair. The professors look at each other in disbelief, wondering if the heart burned out due to excessive energy. Meanwhile, Chunhai stands there calmly, thinking to himself that he may have overdone it and accidentally destroyed the heart. Chunhai realizes that the power of gluttony can even devour the core of a machine. With the refined demonic heart now absorbed and activated within him, a faint glow appears in his eyes. From this moment on, he gains the ability to see the true rank of everyone around him. His eyes shine with a green hue as he scans the crowd, and that's when he discovers that even Gongting has been hiding his real strength. Soon after, a professor announces that today's test has been suspended, claiming that Chunhai's results were most likely just a system error. His friends immediately surround him, calling him a genius and praising him without caring about what the official data says. Young-dayan steps forward, saying that it was obvious the results were nothing more than a machine malfunction. Angrily, he accuses Chunhai of breaking the demonic heart and trying to avoid responsibility. As yellow lightning crackles in his hand, Chunhai looks at him calmly, thinking to himself how annoying this guy is, even briefly wondering if he should just cripple him. But before things escalate, Gongting steps in and orders Young-dayan to stop, telling him not to disrespect their new teammate. The word teammate shocks Young-dayan completely. Gongting then personally invites Chunhai to join his squad, confidently stating that together they would achieve the highest score in the academy's history. In the audience, Malong is left speechless that the president himself is inviting Chunhai. Meanwhile, Young-dayan becomes uneasy, realizing that if Chunhai joins, someone in the team will likely be replaced. He questions what right Chunhai has to join them, but since the invitation came directly from Gongting, he cannot object. Forcing a smile, he extends a reluctant welcome. However, Chunhai simply slaps his hand away and calmly says that he is not interested. The sudden rejection leaves both Young-dayan and Gongting stunned. Young-dayan angrily shouts that their team is the #1 in the school, but Chunhai replies, indifferently, that it has nothing to do with him, and that all of this is just too noisy. Young-dayan becomes so furious that he practically starts fuming. The crowd is in disbelief. No one can believe that Chunhai actually dared to reject the president's invitation. Soon, rumors begin spreading that he wants to take first place all for himself. His friends, however, are amazed by his boldness, quietly admiring his courage. Gonin, on the other hand, says it's fine, explaining that his brother Gongting has his own way of doing things. Later, in the university courtyard, students walk around casually after the test. High above, Director Wan Long sighs, saying it's a shame that the two didn't form a team. But the blonde woman smiles, saying that this situation is far more interesting. She explains that Gongting was born into privilege and that rejection, like this, is nothing less than a declaration of war. The young man beside her agrees, adding that the president is not someone easy to deal with. Meanwhile, Young-dayan is still furious, insisting that Chunhai only gained attention because of a system error. Gongting, however, begins to wonder if the test was truly wrong. Deciding not to risk his position at the top, he remains cautious. Young-dayan offers to teach Chunhai a lesson on his behalf, but Gongting asks coldly if he really sees him as that kind of petty person. Startled, Young-dayan immediately apologizes. Gongting then says he is not in the mood for anything else and tells the others to go on without him. With a serious expression, he makes it clear that whatever they choose to do has nothing to do with him. Young-dayan understands the message, but with a sly smile, he repeats those same words, making it clear that he intends to act on his own. About 10 minutes later, he receives unexpected news Chunhai is no longer at the school. One of his lackeys informs him that they heard that our hero had said he was heading home for a while. With a sinister smile, Young-dayan realizes that luck is on his side. Deciding that it would be far more convenient to deal with Chunhai outside the school, he quietly prepares to make his move. Meanwhile, Chunhai walks calmly through the streets, listening to music as if nothing happened. His mind drifts back to his past life, recalling a tragic incident an elite guild team once encountered. A powerful demon inside a hidden lair. That demon, known as Wrath, annihilated the entire team before descending upon the human world. In this life, Chunhai forms a clear plan. He must locate Wrath's lair as quickly as possible. But to begin, he needs a large amount of money. In the future, the Mitro Monster Exchange will become the largest marketplace in the country, a central hub for buying and selling awakened equipment. For now, it is also the fastest way for him to earn money. Arriving there, he hands over several monster fangs to an evaluator, who looks surprised. Chunhai calmly explains that they dropped from a monster. A staff member recognizes them as Sangan fangs, items from a rank-level monster. She explains that they can be crafted into scepters or refined into powder. The evaluator, however, dismisses it, saying it's normal not to recognize such small rank items. Complaining about the lack of high-level customers lately, he lazily passes the task to a new employee and leaves with an excuse. The young staff member processes the items and hands Chunhai the payment. With 18,000 in hand, he realizes it's enough to temporarily solve his rent problem. She politely asks if he needs anything else. At that moment, a purple energy begins to flow from his hand. In front of her, Chunhai summons a massive sword and asks her to evaluate it. The girl is left in awe, staring at the enormous and beautifully crafted weapon. She admits she has never seen anything like it before, but she can sense that it is at least rank B, or maybe even rank A. From a distance, the evaluator scoffs, saying that rank A weapons are worth millions and that he has never even seen one before. Just then, a man in a suit walks in and calmly says that the young man is correct, but not in the way they think. The evaluator immediately assumes his boss is agreeing with him. However, The man reveals the truth: the sword is not rank B or A. It is a weapon from the lands of Purgatory, a rank S item. Both the evaluator and the young employee are left completely stunned, unable to believe what they just heard. Without hesitation, the man warmly shakes Chun-Hai's hand, welcoming him as an honored guest. The evaluator stands there, speechless, as Chun-Hai is invited into a VIP room and told to request anything he desires. Chun-Hai smiles slightly to himself, thinking that the right person has finally appeared. The man introduces himself. His name is Tindy. Inside the VIP room, Tindy personally serves a special tea to his distinguished guest. He then asks Chun-Hai what he wants in exchange for the equipment. Chun-Hai calmly replies that he needs 1 million. Tindy is completely shocked, asking if he heard correctly. Only 1 million. He explains that a weapon of that level could easily be worth tens of millions in the market. But Chun-Hai clarifies his intention. He does not want to sell the sword. Instead, he wants to use it as collateral for a loan. A 1-month loan. The manager is left stunned, wondering what kind of student would come up with something like this. He begins to speculate, could this young man be a wealthy heir, or perhaps a genius? Either way, he is clearly far from ordinary. Chun-Hai calmly states that he will repay everything in full the following month, along with 10% interest. Hearing this, the manager asks the staff member to leave them alone for a moment. Now alone with him, the man starts putting the pieces together. He says that if he's not mistaken, Chun-Hai must be a senior at the National University, about to graduate. He knows that the graduation combat exam is in 1 month, and that the prize for first place is exactly 1 million. With a knowing smile, the manager looks at him and asks if he is confident in taking first place. Chun-Hai remains silent, but the seriousness in his eyes confirms everything. The man understands. Immediately, this boy needs money for something urgent and critical, and so he decides to make a bold move. Instead of 1 million, he offers 15.5 million in cash, completely interest-free for 1 month. Extending his hand, he tells Chun-Hai to consider it a gesture of friendship. Chun-Hai is genuinely surprised by such a generous offer. The manager assures him that everything will remain confidential and expresses his hope to do more business together in the future. Chun-Hai is impressed by the man's sharp insight. Now he truly understands why this person will one day become the best in the industry. He accepts the handshake, knowing deep down that he cannot defeat Wrath alone. At that moment, it becomes clear to him he will need reliable allies to win. Placing his hand on a magical contract scroll, Chun-Hai finalizes the agreement. The contract is sealed, and he receives a notification confirming the transfer of the funds. The manager then asks what he plans to use in the graduation exam and offers to lend him equipment. He admits he doesn't have any rank S items available, but can provide several rank A and rank B weapons. However, Chun-Hai declines. As particles of light gather in his hand, he summons another identical sword, making it clear that he already has everything he needs. The manager and the staff are left completely stunned, unable to believe what they are witnessing. After that, Chun-Hai politely takes his leave. As he walks away, the manager watches him and calls him a true hero. Soon after, he promotes the young staff member for successfully handling such an important client. Standing near the window, Chun-Hai pauses and mentions that he has one more thing to take care of. Before leaving, he purchases an item he needs. Then, stepping out of the equipment shop, he takes a taxi toward his next destination. He soon arrives at a large bus station, his objective clear in his mind. As he stands there, memories of his past life surface once again. Money had always been a constant struggle. He remembers working multiple part-time jobs just to pay rent. He and his sister lived with almost nothing, barely getting by. She even took on small jobs to help support them. Then he recalls the day she received her acceptance letter to an art academy. She had been accepted into her dream. Yet, right in front of him, she tore the letter apart. She gave up her dream so she wouldn't become a burden on the family. Back in the present, Chun-Hai grows anxious. His sister should have already arrived by now. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out his name from a distance. The girl complains loudly, saying she had told him many times to wait at the exit. Then she walks closer, asking if he got lost again. It is his sister. Chun-Hai freezes in place. It has been 7 long years since the last time he saw her. Unaware of his overwhelming emotions, she simply asks him to help with her luggage. Older brother. She waves her hand in front of him and asks why he's just standing there doing nothing. Without saying a single word, Chun-Hai suddenly pulls her into a tight, emotional embrace. The girl is completely confused by his sudden and strange behavior. Smiling softly, he thinks to himself that he has finally found her again after 7 long years. Still trapped in his strong grip, his sister struggles and then forcefully pushes him away, shouting that he's suffocating her. She complains about his weird behavior and jokingly asks if he just got rejected by someone. As they walk together, she begins chatting about her trip, telling him everything in her usual lively tone. Chun-Hai watches her quietly, a determined smile on his face, simply happy to have her back. In his heart, he makes a silent vow this time. No matter what happens, he will never let her suffer again. However, ahead on their path home, a group of thugs is already waiting in a dark alley. Inside the alley, the leader orders his men to stay hidden. With a cruel smile, he swears to teach Chun-Hai a lesson for daring to stand up to him. One of the lackeys hesitates, asking what if they go too far, but the leader dismisses it, saying the boy deserves it for his attitude. He recalls Chun-Hai telling him to stop being loud and to stop bothering others. Enraged by that humiliation, he commands his men to beat him until he can no longer walk. Beside him stands an assassin named Hangtae, holding a blade with a sinister grin, ready to strike. Meanwhile, completely unaware of the danger, the siblings continue walking peacefully. His sister notices his unusual behavior and asks if it's because of the upcoming exam. She jokes that someone like him couldn't possibly be in love or anything like that. Trying to cheer him up, she reminds him of the advice he once gave her to always believe in herself, and even hums a little tune playfully. Chun-Hai realizes how perceptive she is, noticing even the smallest changes in him. He reassures her that everything is fine, but she teases him, saying it's probably just his male pride. Laughing, she adds that he's getting old and building walls around his heart. As they step into the alley, the ambush begins. One of the thugs is surprised to see that Chun-Hai is not alone, but the leader smirks, saying it's even better there are no cameras here to witness anything. Chun-Hai instantly senses the hostile aura around them. With a cold expression, he recognizes the group as members connected to the student council. Calmly, he takes out a pair of wireless earphones and gently places them in his sister's ears. He tells her he wants to share a song with her. Surprised, she closes her eyes and relaxes as the music begins to play, completely unaware of what's about to happen. With his sister safely distracted, Chun-Hai turns to face the enemies. His eyes glow faintly blue as he activates his ability. Analyzing their ranks and immediately realizes they are all weak. The thugs charge forward with sticks and weapons in hand. In that moment, Chun-Hai remembers how he lost everything in his past life, and how he has only just gotten it back. Rage surges through him, lightning crackling across his body. Furious that this moment has been ruined, he declares that they should never have interfered. Dan launches himself forward. With a single devastating punch, he strikes the first thug square in the face. The impact is so powerful that the man is sent flying far across the alley. His sister, lost in the music, notices absolutely nothing. Chun-Hai continues his relentless assault, moving like a bolt of lightning. He weaves through the enemies, striking them down one after another with deadly precision. Within seconds, multiple thugs are knocked out and scattered across the ground. One of them attempts a sneak attack from behind with a baton, but Chun-Hai effortlessly blocks it with one hand. He immediately counters, breaking the man's defense and landing a crushing blow that leaves his arm severely injured. Another punch to the face sends him collapsing instantly. With a swift kick, Chun-Hai sends the remaining thugs flying, as if they weigh nothing. The leader watches in sheer terror, unable to comprehend how this boy could be so overwhelmingly powerful. Surrounded by a glowing yellow aura, Chun-Hai steps forward, continuing his unstoppable assault. None of the enemies can even touch him. Seeing all his men defeated, the assassin finally steps forward, gripping his dagger tightly. With a confident smirk, he boasts that he is one of the best assassins in the entire school, that he would never lose. The thug shouts that Chun-Hai doesn't stand a chance and charges forward with everything he has, aiming for a final attack. But Chun-Hai easily sidesteps the strike and delivers a precise blow straight to his head. The force of the impact is so overwhelming that the leader is sent flying uncontrollably through the air. Chun-Hai's fist slams hard into the enemy's jaw, and with a final crushing strike, he drives the leader straight into the ground with terrifying power. The man crashes down without any chance to retaliate, completely defeated as his body hits the alley floor. Lying there, barely conscious, the leader sees a terrifying shadow looming over him. Slowly, the figure reveals itself. It's Chun-Hai, staring down at him with glowing red eyes. With a cold and merciless expression, he reminds the man that he had already warned him not to interfere again. His voice turns sharper as he asks if the thug is incapable of understanding human language. The man trembles in pain and fear, finally realizing that the ranking test results were not wrong at all. Before he can say anything, Chun-Hai grabs him tightly and presses a lightning-formed blade against his face, ordering him to shut up. Panic overwhelms the thug as he realizes that this boy is truly capable of killing him. A suffocating aura surrounds Chun-Hai, making the man wonder what kind of life he must have lived to become like this. With deadly calm, Chun-Hai tells him to listen carefully. He warns him never to threaten his sister again. If any of them ever show up in front of her even one by one, he swears he will make them disappear without hesitation. Paralyzed with fear, the thug can only nod as the blade remains pressed against his face. After delivering his warning, Chun-Hai tosses the dagger aside and walks away, leaving the man trembling on the ground. Meanwhile, completely unaware of the battle, his sister continues listening to the music. The melody stirs something deep within her, and she wonders why she suddenly feels like crying. It feels as if, in just a few days, her brother has gone through something unimaginable. Even so, she reassures herself that he is not alone because she has always been by his side. She finally removes the earphones and shouts at him, calling him annoying for pulling such a strange trick. Chun-Hai turns back with a gentle smile and hands her a small gift box. As he opens it, a golden pen is revealed. He tells her it's a gift for her. The girl is left speechless when she recognizes it a next generation holographic Manhwa pen. Shocked, she asked where he got the money, since something like that cost more than 10,000. She insists that it's too expensive and tries to return it, but Chun-Hai remembers the past. With a firm resolve in his heart, he silently vows once again that in this new life, he will protect everything about her. Meanwhile, the defeated thugs lie scattered across the alley, desperately begging for medical help, but no one comes. Later that night at home, his sister excitedly tests the new pen. With a soft pink glow, she draws in the air, creating beautiful holographic images with ease. She is completely amazed by it. Chun-Hai sits nearby, happily eating noodles, praising her cooking as the best in the world. But she scolds him for spending so much money when they still have rent to pay. Then, with a calm expression, he surprises her by saying he has already paid the rent for the entire year in advance. Chun-Hai quickly makes up a clumsy excuse, saying it was from some kind of business partnership with a friend. His sister doesn't believe it for a second. She can tell he's hiding something from her now. But as she looks more closely at his face, she notices something different, something she hasn't seen in a long time. It's a genuine, happy smile. Realizing this, she gently places her hand on his shoulder, her expression softening with concern. She tells him not to push himself too hard. No matter what happens, he doesn't have to carry everything alone. Chun-Hai simply smiles back and nods, reassuring her without saying too much. Elsewhere, news spreads that the leader of the thugs has been hospitalized with severe injuries. It is said that not even the best healers could fully restore him in less than a month. The student council president is surprised to hear that the man went after Chun-Hai and ended up like this. A woman nearby comments that the thug will likely miss the graduation evaluation, but the president coldly replies that it doesn't matter, he was nothing but a burden to the team anyway. At that moment, an older man enters the room to speak with the young master. This is Gong Shan, the director of employment at the National University of Awakened. He reveals that he has confirmed the internal results of the recent ranking test. According to the data, Chun-Hai is indeed rank C, and the only one ranked higher than the president himself. The room falls silent as the president processes the shocking information. The director reminds him that his father had invited the vice president to attend the graduation ceremony. In case of emergency, they could even have his niece fill a spot on the team. However, the woman sitting nearby dismisses the concern, saying he worries too much about such matters. The president then looks at the director with calm confidence. With a faint smile, he asks if they truly believe he used his full strength during the test. He declares that during the combat evaluation, everyone will see the truth. With cold determination, he promises that he will prove who the real strongest is. Later that night, Chun-Hai completes an intense 100-kilometer training session. Standing under the shower, he reflects that with his financial problems resolved, everything is finally starting to fall into place. His next goal is clear the 1 million reward from the graduation evaluation. With that, he will repay the loan and honor his contract with the manager. Lying in bed, he thinks about how less than a month remains until the decisive evaluation. Closing his eyes, he decides to level up a few more times before the big day. The system begins to load slowly, preparing to initiate the simulation. Moments later, the power of gluttony activates once again, pulling his consciousness away. In an instant, Chun-Hai is transported back to the mysterious domain, the lair with the towering demonic structure. He steps closer to the ominous tower, determined to uncover its secrets. He recalls that his weakest class, the King of Death, is already at mid-rank C, but his strongest class, the Rakshasa, had its power, was considered completely undetectable. Because of that, the true ranking of his other classes remains a complete mystery. Suddenly, the SSS rank void key begins floating right in front of him. Without hesitation, Chun-Hai grabs it and uses the artifact to unlock the gate of the tower. The massive doors slowly open, revealing a swirling vortex of energy. Deciding to test it, he steps forward, and in the next instant, he is violently pulled inside. On the other side of the portal, he is stunned by what he sees. The environment transforms into a vast, star-filled plain, stretching endlessly in all directions. But something feels terribly wrong. The moment he takes a step, an overwhelming force presses down on his body. His expression changes as he realizes what's happening. The gravity here is crushing. His knees slam into the ground as the immense pressure forces him down. Struggling to breathe, he barely manages to stay upright. It doesn't take long for him to understand. The gravity in this place is 10 times stronger than normal. Before he can fully adjust, he notices that the portal behind him has vanished. That means there's only one way out. Defeat the boss of this floor. As he tries to stand, a massive glowing claw suddenly slams into the ground beside him, shattering the surface with terrifying force. A deafening roar echoes through the space as a phantom lion of rank B appears, its presence dominating the entire area. It is the guardian of this floor. Without wasting a second, the system activates. Yellow lightning begins to surge around Chun-Hai's body as his class shifts. In an instant, he becomes a level 10 electric assassin, ready to fight. But the beast does not wait. The lion charges forward at incredible speed. Even under the crushing gravity, Chun-Hai barely manages to dodge the attack using his sharpened reflexes. He attempts a quick counterattack but immediately realizes something is wrong. His movements are too slow. The heavy gravity is dragging him down, reducing both his speed and precision. His strike barely grazes the monster, completely missing its vital point. Chunhai is shocked. This is the first time his assassin abilities have failed him so badly. Under this intense pressure, his accuracy drops, and the advantage of his class begins to fade. The lion roars again, furious, and continues its relentless assault without giving him even a moment to recover. As he struggles to survive, a thought crosses his mind: are all the monsters in this tower this powerful? Realizing he cannot continue like this, he activates another class. In an instant, his body transforms as the Rakshasa of Purgatory takes over. His appearance shifts, and a terrifying aura surrounds him. With this transformation, his strength and endurance surge dramatically, allowing him to withstand the extreme gravity. Now, the tide begins to turn. With overwhelming force, Chunhai throws a devastating punch straight at the beast. The impact shakes the ground itself. Then, using his ability to manipulate gravity, he amplifies the weight of his strike, slamming the lion deep into the ground. The power of his blow increases by over 600%, and within this high-gravity environment, its destructive force is amplified nearly 60 times. The beast is thrown into complete panic, unable to withstand such monstrous power. It roars in desperation, declaring that Chunhai will never be able to stop it, but its resistance is meaningless. Under the crushing force, the lion's body begins to collapse. Moments later, it explodes under the immense gravitational pressure. Completely destroyed, silence returns to the battlefield. Chunhai stands there, breathing heavily. His hand is badly injured from the overwhelming force of his own attack. Can barely breathe. Lying at the bottom of the crater, Chunhai notices that he has received a phantom lion bone as a reward for his victory. With the 1200 experience points he gained, he finally reaches level 11. A system screen appears, explaining that each star on a class card represents a multiplier for overall stats. As he compares his classes, he realizes that the Rakshasa of Purgatory is far stronger than his electric assassin class. Even so, despite all this power, none of his classes have reached rank B yet. However, something begins to bother him. He frowns, recalling the end of the battle. Why didn't the Devourer option appear after defeating the monster? And more importantly, why hasn't a portal to the next level appeared anywhere on this map? A chilling thought crosses his mind. Suddenly, a small dark portal begins to form in the starry sky above him. It expands rapidly, tearing open into a massive black rift in the void. From within the darkness, countless pairs of glowing eyes stare back at him. At that moment, Chunhai understands the truth. The real boss of this floor hasn't appeared yet. The portal begins to pour out a pack of lions, and he realizes that the creature he defeated earlier was nothing more than a regular monster. One of the beasts lunges forward at incredible speed, slashing his hand and drawing blood. Instantly, the others surround him, attacking from all directions without mercy. Overwhelmed, Chunhai recalls Hakaza's warning about the endless suffering that awaited him inside the tower. The voice from the past echoes in his mind, reminding him that he must endure everything if he wants to grow stronger. His body battered and his face covered in injuries, he clenches his teeth and understands he must overcome every challenge, no matter how brutal. Then suddenly, he wakes up, gasping for air. Chunhai finds himself back in his bed. It was all a dream, or at least, it should have been. Sitting up, still shaken, he tries to process the intensity of what he just experienced. When he touches his body, he can almost feel the lingering pain, as if the battle had truly happened. In that moment, he realizes a harsh truth. There are no shortcuts to becoming powerful in this cruel world. The scene shifts to the university hall, where the graduation ceremony is about to begin. In the audience, Gong Chuan, the director of career services, watches everything closely. Around him, students whisper among themselves, noting that high-ranking officials from the Guild Alliance have come to observe the exam this year. One student remarks that this must be the reason why the rules have changed. Now, each team must consist of 5 members, and at least one of them must meet a minimum rank requirement. At the front, the announcer clears his throat and speaks into the microphone, calling for everyone's attention. He announces that all students' ranking information has been sent to their wrist devices. Immediately, the students look down at their wrist and activate their holographic displays. A list appears, showing the names and ranks of every student. As expected, the student council president, Gong Ting, stands at the very top. But then, among the names, one boy's ranking begins to draw everyone's attention. The boy with glasses is shocked when he sees something on the list and immediately says that something isn't right. At the very end of the list, our hero's name appears, classified at the lowest rank. His glasses-wearing friend is stunned, unable to understand how someone like him could possibly be ranked so low. A girl recalls that his test result was rank C and questions how he could have fallen all the way down to the bottom. The bullies quickly jump to a conclusion, claiming that his demonic core must be broken, while one of them even expresses disappointment that he can't team up with him anymore. From that moment on, it becomes clear no one wants to form a team with the boy because of his rank. In the audience, a student whispers that he must be regretting turning down the student council. President's offer. Meanwhile, the student council president watches everything with a calm yet calculating gaze. Up on the stage, Director Gonan looks at his nephew with clear disapproval, thinking about how useless he still is and how he has yet to truly learn how to use his power. Deciding to teach him a lesson, the director plans to ensure that his opponent won't even qualify for the exam. The announcer urges the students to quickly form their teams, and suddenly everyone rushes toward Ting. A massive crowd gathers, desperately begging to join the president's team. Many of them boast about their abilities, including a girl who confidently claims to be an excellent healer. One of Ting's teammates shouts to the crowd to step back, announcing that there's only one spot left. Half an hour later, most of the teams are finally formed successfully. While others celebrate, Chun and his friends remain isolated in a corner. Their group looks completely discouraged, as no one is willing to join them due to their low ranks. They begin to worry that they won't even qualify for the exam because they don't have enough members. One of Chun's friends becomes frustrated, insisting that it's impossible for Chun to truly be ranked at the lowest level. That's when Chun realizes something: these rules were designed specifically to target their dorm. The combat exam is a huge opportunity, and the team's overall score will determine everyone's future. On top of that, the number of monsters inside the lair depends on the size of each team, so having more members doesn't necessarily guarantee a higher score. Even so, the strongest students naturally group together, leaving the weaker ones behind. As the situation reaches a deadlock, a girl approaches Zhu, one of Chun's friends. She says her team is missing just one member and invites him to join them instead of staying with weaklings. Chun understands that if things continue like this, the three of them will definitely be left behind. They would lose their chance to compete, and all their training would be for nothing. However, his roommate politely apologizes and refuses her offer. He firmly states that he won't abandon his friends. They promise to stay together until the end. The other group becomes furious at his refusal, insulting him and calling him an ungrateful piece of trash for rejecting their help. A glance at the team list shows that almost all teams are already full, and time is running out. One of Chun's friends starts to panic, realizing they still lack one member and that there are barely any students left. At that moment, Chun slowly stands up, his eyes beginning to glow with determination. He notices that Director Gonan shares the same surname as Ting, and quickly concludes that they are related. Everything suddenly makes sense. The rules and his rank were manipulated just to hold him back. But Chun has no intention of giving up. If they are going to attack him openly, then he sees no reason to hold himself back anymore. As his class change completes, bright yellow lightning begins to surround him. The air itself seems to tremble as Chun finally decides to reveal his true strength. Up on the stage, the atmosphere shifts as something powerful is about to unfold. The director and his assistant are instantly shaken as they feel a sudden explosion of power surge through the hall. Chun's friends stare in shock, shouting in confusion as they watch him transform right there in front of everyone. In awakened academies, there exists a long-standing tradition: one-on-one challenges that can be issued at any time. With a determined gaze, Chun understands that this is the most direct way to prove his true strength. He is certain that the student council president will never refuse such a duel. Across the hall, the blonde young man meets his eyes, wearing a calm and confident smile. Chun knows that if he defeats him, many powerful students will rush to join his team. But just as the tension reaches its peak, a female voice suddenly calls out, asking if he is still in need of a teammate. The unexpected interruption causes everyone to turn in surprise. The girl steps forward and offers to join his team for the graduation exam. She introduces herself as Lingu and confidently states that she was already ranked D back in high school, assuring him that she would not be a burden. Chun's friends are left completely stunned, wondering since when he became so close to the vice president. Even the student council president looks genuinely surprised, while his subordinate is utterly confused about what his cousin is doing. Up on the stage, Director Gongchuan is both shocked and furious at the girl's sudden interference. As she walks forward calmly, whispers spread among the students. Many recognize her as a prodigy from the Sacred Kingdom. The director calls out her name and firmly declares that she cannot participate in the exam because she is an exchange student. He explains that she has never taken an official test, and allowing her to join would break the academy's rules. At that very moment, the university's rector suddenly appears, surrounded by a faint purple aura. Even Gongchuan is taken aback, wondering why the head of the university himself has come. The older man approaches the girl and questions why she is getting involved in this situation. Chun watches in confusion, unable to understand how the rector appeared so suddenly. If his class is that of a warrior, then such movement shouldn't be possible. The rector calmly states that her participation would disrupt the balance of the exam, and she simply smiles in agreement. With his eyes glowing faintly green, Chun activates his analysis ability and tries to read the ranks of both the rector and the director, but to his surprise, he cannot detect anything at all. This only makes the situation feel even more dangerous. Director Gongchuan quickly aligns himself with the rector, emphasizing that the academy has always followed strict rules. He explains that the institution's purpose is to train elite fighters for the future of the world, and the graduation exam is an ancient and crucial tradition that must be protected. However, the rector calmly counters, asking how the academy would take responsibility if students lost their opportunities due to unfair conditions. At those words, the director begins to sweat nervously. A chilling thought crosses his mind. Has the rector discovered that he tampered with the system? He cannot believe that the rector would side with Lingu just to support a single boy from a low-ranked dormitory. Realizing that pushing further could expose him, the director decides to back down. In his mind, he reassures himself that it is not worth clashing with someone of higher authority. He turns to his nephew and reminds him that victory is already certain, since his rival's team is weak. Changing his stance completely, the director agrees with the rector and claims that the issue was simply a mistake in the newly implemented rules. With that, he publicly announces that the regulations will be adjusted. Teams with fewer members will now be allowed to participate under revised conditions, ensuring fairness for all students. The atmosphere in the hall shifts instantly. What was once a disadvantage for Chun suddenly turns into an opportunity. And now, teams with fewer than 5 members are now officially allowed to register for the exam. The moment the rule is announced, the watches on Chun's team begin to glow, and their team formation is confirmed successfully. His friends burst into celebration, overjoyed, and without hesitation, they decide to appoint Chun as their captain. Watching from above, the rector casually remarks to the girl that her interest in Chun seems far greater than he initially thought. On one side stands the strongest team in the academy's history, and on the other, a group made up of the lowest-ranked students. The old man smiles faintly, wondering which demonic lair each team will choose for the test. The professor steps forward and explains that team captains now have the authority to select the demon lair their team will face. Suddenly, he receives a notification and looks visibly surprised at how quickly one team has already made their choice. The students begin murmuring in confusion, but that quickly turns into shock when they realize that Chun's team was the first to decide. One student shouts in panic, unable to believe what he's seen. Immediately, Chun's teammates fall into complete chaos, yelling at him to cancel the selection right away. Despite all the noise and panic around him, Chun remains perfectly calm, while the others question whether he has completely lost his mind. At that moment, the system begins explaining the rules of the graduation exam. This will be the first time the students face a real demon lair. To earn points, they must defeat all the monsters inside, including the powerful boss that rules the area. Completing the challenge in under 1 hour grants an additional 20 bonus points to their final score. Each difficulty level comes with a different multiplier, which determines the final ranking. In theory, choosing a king-level lair could reward a team with up to 100 points, the maximum possible score. The team with the highest score will receive direct invitations to join the prestigious Imperial Guild, while the MVP will earn a managerial position, along with a prize of 1 million coins. The students recall that the current school record is 90 points, and even high-ranking lairs are considered extremely dangerous. Looking at the opposing team, many believe that the student council president's group has the highest chance of breaking that record. Just then, the system announces that a submission has been received. The boy with glasses stares at the panel in disbelief, shocked by how fast it happened. As everyone focuses on the screen, they realize that Chun's team was the one who submitted first. In that instant, the entire hall falls silent. The display confirms their selection a king-level demon lair. The screen glows as the system waits for confirmation from the rest of Chun's team. Panic erupts among the students. Some scream that no one has ever cleared a lair of that level before, insisting it must have been a mistake. One of Chun's teammates grabs him by the collar, desperately asking if he understands the danger of what he just chose. Another collapses to the ground in despair, crying and questioning how he ended up on the team of someone so reckless. Their watches light up with a confirmation request, asking if they accept this seemingly suicidal mission. Sweat dripping down his face, one of them pleads with Chun to reconsider, saying that a lair of this level is far beyond anything they can handle. But Chun, with a calm and unwavering expression, confirms that he has already thought it through, and he has no intention of backing down. At the same time, the system reveals that the student council president's team has also chosen a king-level lair. Their decision is confirmed instantly, with every member accepting the challenge without hesitation. The entire crowd is left stunned. No one can believe that the teams have chosen the highest possible difficulty. And as the tension in the room rises, it becomes clear this exam is no longer just a test. It's going to be a battle for dominance. The president's team confidently declares that this year's graduation exam will be absolute chaos. One of the girls from the rival group mocks Chun and his teammates, calling them nothing more than a bunch of delusional failures. Meanwhile, Chun's team remains isolated in a corner of the hall, with no one supporting them. The bullies continue laughing, saying that their team will fall apart before the exam even begins. Despite all the ridicule, the boy with glasses quietly observes Chun with a thoughtful expression. He senses something different, an entirely new aura of power surrounding his friend. Memories flash through his mind of how Chun had always been someone he protected during their college years. But now, things have changed. With his eyes shining in realization, he understands that Chun is no longer the same person he used to be. Without hesitation, he presses the confirmation button and declares that he will stand by his friend until the very end, no matter what. Because of the 4 years they spent together, the second teammate shrugs and agrees, saying that they were going to end up last anyway, so it doesn't really matter what they choose. The third member is left stunned, watching his friends accept what looks like a suicidal mission. He complains that he was supposed to be the leader of the dorm, yet now he's the last one to decide. But after a brief moment, he sighs and confirms as well, saying that since they're about to graduate, they might as well go all out. With that, the registration is complete. Chun's team is officially locked in for the king-level demon lair. The group gathers around him, and Chun looks at his teammates with genuine gratitude. He thanks them for trusting him, then apologizes and reveals the truth: he chose such a dangerous lair because he's aiming for the MVP reward. Hearing this, the student council president immediately realizes that Chun has been targeting the very top from the beginning. With a confident smile, Chun tells his friends that they will achieve the highest score together. But the president steps forward and coldly declares that the MVP title will belong to him. At that moment, the rivalry between the two finally ignites. The boy with glasses is stunned by Chun's boldness, while Chun himself meets the challenge head-on without fear, his eyes glowing with determination. The president, equally intense, states that there can only be one strongest person in the entire academy. One of his teammates whispers in surprise, saying she has never seen their leader wear such an expression before. From that instant on, the rivalry between the two young men becomes clear to everyone. Up on the stage, the rector smiles faintly, commenting on how wonderful youth is fearless in the face of the unknown. The girl beside him, however, thinks Chun may have been too confident in choosing such a dangerous lair. Another instructor explains that king-level lairs offer massive multipliers, potentially allowing teams to reach scores as high as 150 points. But the difficulty is on a completely different level, and given the current strength of Chun's team, it may not have been the wisest choice. The older man then reminds everyone that only half a month remains before the combat exam officially begins. In such a short time, achieving significant growth seems nearly impossible. While most students train inside simulation rooms, fighting virtual monsters and refining their abilities, the scene shifts to the school courtyard where Chun's team lies completely exhausted on the ground. The boy with glasses complains, pointing out that everyone else is inside training rooms improving their combat skills, while Chun is making them do things like dodgeball, sprint drills, and long-distance runs. Chun calmly explains his reasoning. Training elemental powers in simulated combat, he says, won't truly prepare them for what lies ahead. When they face real fear and the unknown inside an actual demon lair, theory alone will fail them. What determines survival in a real battle isn't rehearsed combos or perfect techniques, it's instinct. He explains that all this physical training, endurance, speed, reflex is meant to sharpen their natural instincts. Simulation rooms can only do so much. Real growth comes from real danger. But ordinary people don't have access to such opportunities. Only the privileged elite can train inside real demon lairs. At the same time, the scene shifts to his rival, who is training inside an actual lair, effortlessly cutting down monsters with a blade of light. The elite do everything they can to widen the gap in power, ensuring they remain at the top. From the moment they are born, they are nurtured with resources and opportunities that ordinary people spend their entire lives chasing but never attain. One of Chun's teammates then asks the question weighing on all of them: what can people like them, who have nothing, possibly do to compete? Chun answers without hesitation. They must enter the Imperial Guild with the highest score and shatter that barrier. His teammates finally understand. The graduation exam is their only chance to surpass the privileged. And for Chun, it is more than just an opportunity. It is the moment where he will rise above them all. We are taken to the Dream Tower, Starfall Barrens. The scene opens with Kane desperately trying to fight a panther. He throws everything he has into the battle, but the beast is still far too powerful. The panther overwhelms him completely and defeats him with brutal force, proving just how dangerous the tower truly is. 10 days before the exam, the scene shifts to Chun and his entire team training relentlessly. Everyone is pushing themselves to their limits. At the same time, Chun's progress inside the Dream Tower starts improving rapidly. He can now handle a few panthers on his own with much more ease than before. Meanwhile, Gongting is inside a dangerous zone, hunting monsters continuously to gain experience. He keeps fighting without rest, growing stronger with every battle. 5 days before the exam, Chun and his friends are shown lifting heavy weights, focusing on strengthening their physical abilities. Their training has become intense and disciplined. Then the scene moves to 3 days before the exam. Gongting is seen again fighting monsters, and by now he has become significantly more powerful than before. 2 days before the exam, we return to the Dream Tower. A soldier defeats a panther in a fierce fight, and immediately after killing it, he levels up. his level rises to 16, showing how quickly strength can increase inside the tower. One day before the exam, now we see Chun. His body is covered in blood, clearly injured from battle. Yet despite the pain and the wounds, he stands firm, with determination in his eyes. He declares that now it is finally time for the real fight. June 17, 2157. Graduation Combat Exam Dai. The long-awaited day has arrived. A robot appears in front of the examinees and announces in a mechanical voice, "Hello, examinees. I'm your escort drone for this exam." Sean is seen tightening and adjusting his gloves, preparing himself mentally and physically for what lies ahead. Then we see his entire team. The atmosphere feels different now. Everyone looks serious and tense. Compared to before, they seem more distant, more focused, and more mature. The casual energy they once had is gone, replaced by determination and the heavy pressure of the upcoming battle. The real test is about to begin. At that moment, the same robot announces to all the students present, "Please check that your wristbands and equipment are worn correctly. Attention everyone. The graduation exam officially begins." As its mechanical voice echoes across the area, the scene shifts outside the National Awaken University. Several luxurious cars arrive one after another and come to a stop. From one elegant vehicle, a distinguished man steps out. The principal walks forward and greets him with a handshake, saying warmly, "Long time no see, President Gong." The man nods slightly and replies, "Sorry to keep you waiting, Principal." We are then given his introduction. He is Gong Lin, co-founder of the Imperial Guild and Gong Ting Unka's father. From above, a few students watch the scene unfold and begin whispering among themselves in shock and excitement. So that's one of the founders of the Imperial Guild. He's so handsome. Who's in the car behind them? To think even an Imperial Guild founder and the principal came personally to invite them out. Just then, another car door opens and yet another influential figure steps out. A student stutters in disbelief. It's actually the man revealed as none other than Carl Cavendish, vice chairman of the World Guild Alliance. The students are completely stunned. The Alliance vice chairman. The Guild Alliance vice chairman actually came to our school. Damn, people like that you might never even see once in your life. No wonder they cleared out the whole administrative district today. The Guild Alliance is the most powerful organization in the world right now. The scene then shifts to a man addressing the situation formally. He announces this year there are 184 students taking part in the graduation combat exam, split into 28 teams. 23 teams chose Frank layers, 3 teams chose E-rank layers, and teams chose D-rank layers. Hearing this, a woman reacts with surprise. Some teams actually chose D-rank layers. Her identity is then revealed. She is Secretary General of the Guild Alliance. With a serious expression, she continues, "Even for progress are considered dangerous. Did you properly warn the students about how dangerous layers are?" The host calmly begins clarifying the situation. Of course, we explain everything clearly in advance, since they rarely get real combat experience. The vast majority of students are lowly ranky, they can barely handle normal mobs and F-rank layers. His tone is steady, but the reality of his words makes it clear just how serious this exam truly is. The scene then shifts. Inside an F-rank lair, a team of students is fighting intensely, but they are performing surprisingly well. It seems like they are in complete control of the battlefield. However, things change when they encounter the true ruler of the lair. They begin to struggle badly against the lair lord. Standing before them is the boss monster, Large Thornjaw Salamander. The scene then shifts again. Inside an E-rank lair. Here, the danger rises to another level entirely. Every single mob inside an E-rank lair is as strong as an F-rank lair lord. The atmosphere is darker, heavier. The air itself feels suffocating. Suddenly, countless spiders come into view. They cover the walls, the ceiling, and the ground. Their numbers are overwhelming, far more than any normal team would be comfortable. One frightened student, clearly overwhelmed, shouts in panic, "How is an E-rank lair this hard? This is way beyond what we expected." The Secretary General of the Guild Alliance steps forward and asks seriously, "If a student runs into danger, what safety measures are there?" The announcer immediately responds, confident and reassuring, "Rest assured, Secretary General, students are our most valuable resource. Outside each lair, armed Imperial Guild personnel are standing by. If extreme danger is detected, they will intervene immediately. Plus, the examinees' wristbands already have a teleport function." At that very moment, inside an F-rank dungeon, a student raises his voice in fear. "I quit the exam." The wristband on his hand begins to glow brightly. An announcement flashes, "Withdrawn." In the next instant, he disappears from the dungeon and reappears safely outside. The announcer explains, as soon as a student chooses to give up the combat exam, they'll be teleported out of the lair immediately. Even after hearing this, the Secretary General calmly adds, "Even so, there are still 2 teams that chose the higher difficulty D-rank lairs. Your school really is full of talent. I'm looking forward to seeing their performance." Meanwhile, the announcer watches the broadcast silently, thinking to himself, "Yeah, I want to see how long they can last. Those kids will bail out soon enough." Our protagonist's team arrives in a vast snowy field, where the cold air bites there. skin, and visibility, is limited by the pale surroundings. Suddenly, they spot terrifying creatures, ghostly winged monkeys, rank D assassins known for their incredible speed and deadly aerial attacks. The protagonist quickly explains that these monsters specialize in dive attacks from above, striking with insane velocity. He warns everyone to stay alert and be ready to react at any moment. Almost instantly, a swarm of these creatures charges toward them from the sky, preparing a rapid assault. The hero shouts a warning, and the group braces for impact. The attack hits hard. One of his friends is struck directly and sent flying across the snow from the sheer force. Another, the one with glasses, is knocked to the ground by a sudden strike he never saw coming. Only one teammate manages to leap into the air and narrowly dodge the incoming blow, crashing into the snow. They are both shocked and relieved just to still be alive. Then suddenly, one of the creatures slams violently into the ground right in front of them. One of the friends stares in disbelief, slowly realizing what just happened within a single moment. The protagonist has already taken down 3 rank D monsters by himself. With his eyes glowing, the hero calmly states that his teammates are still not strong enough. He tells them to focus on protecting themselves and leave the rest to him. But before they can fully regroup, another creature launches a surprise attack, forcing them to dodge once again. This time, one of them fails to escape and is violently thrown into a tree. At that moment, it finally clicks for one of the friends. The brutal training they went through wasn't about fighting, but about survival and defense. Meanwhile, the one who once believed himself to be the strongest grumbles in frustration, realizing that now he has to rely on someone else just to pass the exam. Covered in crackling lightning, the protagonist launches himself into battle without hesitation, attacking the flying monkeys mercilessly. In an instant, a swarm descends again, but the young warrior unleashes multiple beams of yellow energy, striking down several enemies at once. Watching this, one of his teammates finally accepts the truth. The boy they once knew has become incredibly powerful. He no longer looks like a mere student, but like a seasoned fighter. More lightning attacks tear through the air, hitting the swarm with precision and overwhelming force. One of the friends feels a mix of shock and insecurity, realizing just how far behind he has fallen compared to the protagonist. Suddenly, another monkey appears behind them, and one of the boys shouts a warning. Reacting immediately, the teammate with fire abilities leaps forward to intercept the creature midair. With flames engulfing his hand, he grabs the monster's leg just before it can strike, stopping its attack in a critical moment, improving that. Despite everything, they are beginning to fight back together. The young warrior shouts loudly, calling the attention of his teammates and urging them to help. In that moment, they realize they can't just stand still and let their captain do everything alone. One of them gathers his courage and yells that this is his graduation exam. He refuses to be left behind. The other nods, his hand glowing with a strong green energy. Activating his ability, he launches a trap of vines toward one of the flying monkeys. The vines shoot forward and wrap tightly around the creature, moving at high speed, restraining it midair. The monster struggles violently, trying to break free from the vines, and to their shock, it almost escapes instantly. Reacting quickly, the boy with glasses unleashes a freezing wave, slowing down another enemy with his ice ability. He shouts that he managed to slow it and tells everyone to attack together. Seizing the moment, the teammate with the vine powers launches another attack, reinforcing the restraint. This time, by combining their abilities, ice to slow it down and vines to bind it, they successfully immobilize the creature. Seeing the perfect opening, the fire mage prepares his strongest attack. He leaps into the air, flames blazing around his hand, and unleashes a powerful explosion directly at the trapped monster. The attack lands perfectly, erupting into a massive burst of fire across the snowy ground. The creature screams in agony as it's engulfed in flames. Yet even then, its resilience shocks them. It's still holding on. Refusing to give up, the fire mage continues launching fireballs, each one exploding upon impact with the airborne enemy. But the strain begins to show. The green-haired boy shouts that he can no longer hold the monster with his vines. At the same time, the boy with glasses yells that he has reached his limit with his ice power. Realizing this is their final chance, the fire mage decides to go all out, gathering every ounce of strength he has left. He forms a massive sphere of blazing flames. With a furious roar, he declares it his ultimate attack and hurls the fusion of flames toward the enemy. The explosion that follows is enormous, shaking the entire area and sending shockwaves through the snow-covered battlefield. As the smoke clears, a drone appears and congratulates the team for defeating the monster. Exhausted, the 3 friends collapse onto the ground, cheering in disbelief and excitement. They actually managed to take down a rank D creature together. However, their captain remains silent, watching everything calmly from atop a tree, his expression unreadable. Amid the aftermath, one of the boys notices an item dropped by the defeated monster. Excited, he jumps up and proudly claims that the fight was easy for them. Suddenly, the drone announces that all the common monsters in the dungeon have been eliminated. Back in the control room, the director is left speechless, unable to comprehend what he just witnessed. He cannot understand how a group of inexperienced students managed to defeat such a powerful creature. The officials from the Guild Federation watch in stunned silence as well. Then, the vice president speaks, his tone thoughtful, noting how impressive that young man truly is. With a focused gaze, he observes the protagonist on the dungeon screen and quietly remarks that the boy reminds him of someone he once knew long ago. As he recalls the name, his expression changes slightly. He has finally realized who the protagonist really is. Meanwhile, Gunting's father grows serious upon hearing the vice president's comment. Noticing his reaction, the director beside him becomes tense, unsure of what exactly is going on. Suddenly, that same director shifts everyone's attention to another team's performance. The screen now displays the student council president's squad engaged in battle. The secretary remarks that their coordination is flawless, almost like a professional unit. The vice president nods in agreement, adding that this year's graduating class is truly remarkable. With a faint smile, the director comments that the real battle has only just begun. In another high-ranked dungeon, the rival team faces off against poisonous mushroom creatures. One of the female members steps forward, playing a guitar that emits a strange melody, weakening the monsters around them. Immediately after, one of her teammates channels rocky energy into his hand and unleashes an astral fusion attack, firing a beam that strikes one of the mushrooms directly. At the same time, the student council president prepares to act. Drawing his sword, he uses a skill called Scorching Fracture, creating a massive explosion of flames that engulfs the battlefield. This is Gonting, a flame-type warrior who exudes confidence with every move. His teammates casually remark that these monsters are identical to the ones they faced during training, and one even suggests that the exam might have been manipulated by the Gong family to make things easier. Unbothered, the president's team pushes forward, heading straight toward the dungeon boss. Elsewhere, Chun and his team struggle through a raging snowstorm. The wind howls around them, the freezing air biting at their bodies as they push forward step by step. Chun turns around with a serious and determined expression, ready for whatever lies ahead. Finally, they reach the top of the mountain, and one of his teammates is shocked that they actually made it this far. But their relief is short-lived. Standing before them is the dungeon lord, a massive frost phantom monkey, feeding calmly as if it owns the entire mountain. The sheer size of the creature terrifies them, and they fear that even a single blow from it could be fatal. The monster slowly turns toward them, its glowing red eyes filled with rage. The boy with glasses panics, shouting that the creature is staring directly at him. With a deafening roar, the giant monkey charges forward. The others instinctively run in fear, but Chun steps in without hesitation. In a flash of lightning, he intercepts the beast and delivers a devastating kick straight to its face. The impact sends the creature flying high into the air, before it crashes violently into the snow. Without wasting a single moment, Chun leaps after it, continuing his assault midair. With another powerful kick, he strikes the monkey's head again, followed by a rapid barrage of lightning-infused blows that completely overwhelm the monster. Within seconds, the dungeon lord is defeated. His teammates are left speechless, unable to believe what they just witnessed. Chun eliminated such a terrifying monster with ease. After the victory, he gains 100 experience points and receives a piece of the monkey's hide as a drop. However, he frowns slightly, finding it strange that a ranked E dungeon lord gave so little experience. Just then, one of his friends shouts excitedly after discovering something incredible: mana crystals. He points toward a hollow in a tree filled with glowing blue crystals. Judging by their size and brightness, they're mid-level mana crystals, extremely valuable. The group immediately becomes ecstatic, already imagining the fortune they could make from selling them. But as Chun watches, his expression changes. A sense of unease creeps over him, and he quickly tells them to wait. Before he can stop them, one of his teammates touches a crystal. Instantly, it begins to glow intensely, reflecting all of their faces on its surface. Chun's reflection appears as well, and in that moment, he realizes something is terribly wrong. Without warning, the ground around them erupts with sharp ice spikes, revealing a hidden trap. The spikes shoot upward, freezing the fire mage and even the monitoring drone in place, trapping them completely. Their transmission is immediately cut off, and the control room loses all visual contact with Chun's team. Back outside, the director smiles in satisfaction, stating that they have fallen into the trap of an intelligent monster. The vice president grows concerned and suggests sending in the rescue team, but the rector raises his hand, asking everyone to remain calm. He explains that all the students' vital signs are still stable and that none of them have chosen to withdraw. Therefore, the decision to continue or quit must remain in the hands of the participants themselves. Back inside the dungeon, the boy with glasses shivers and sneezes due to the intense cold surrounding them. He complains about the freezing temperature, though he admits that his class ability is helping him endure it for now. Thanks to his natural resistance to ice, the boy with glasses manages to endure the freezing cold for a moment. But suddenly, a dark and imposing figure emerges from the shadows right in front of him. The monster reveals itself as a terrifying ice lord, and the young man freezes in fear, wondering if this is truly the boss of the dungeon. The creature stares at him with glowing eyes, its skeletal body floating ominously in the air, surrounded by shards of ice. Recognizing it from the monster manual, the boy quickly explains its abilities. This is a frost relic, a high-ranking lord that used the very trap they fell into. Panic sets in as he realizes there is no way they can defeat such a rare and powerful monster. Still, when he notices Chun trapped in ice, he knows he has no time to hesitate. He rushes forward to help, but suddenly, a sharp spike of ice pierces through his leg, gravely injuring him. Crying out in pain, he loses his balance and falls off the icy platform. The skeletal lord watches the scene unfold with a cruel smile. His bracelet detects the injury and asks if he wants to withdraw from the exam. But he refuses, shouting that he won't give up. He has to save his friend. Summoning his strength, he activates a purification ability to remove the freezing effect. However, before he can succeed, the Ice Lord attacks him from behind with another spike. The boy collapses into the snow, his attempt at purification interrupted. Seeing his desperation, the monster lets out a chilling laugh and turns its attention to the other teammate still trapped. Even as his own bracelet warns him to withdraw, the boy with glasses clenches his teeth, refusing to quit. Memories flood his mind of always running away, always being left behind. But he also remembers how Chun stood by him, how they all fought together to reach this point. Against all odds, this is his chance to change his life. His eyes glow with blue determination as he shouts that he will never give up now. Despite the pain, he forces himself to stand and channels his purification energy once more, trying to free his frozen teammate. But the Dungeon Lord does not give him the chance. It launches another devastating ice attack. The energy strikes the frozen Chun, and suddenly something begins to change. The block of ice starts cracking from within, glowing with intense light. The boy screams with everything he has, pushing his power to its absolute limit. Then, in an instant, Chun's eyes flash bright yellow, and he shatters the ice from the inside. Like a bolt of lightning, Chun breaks free with overwhelming force. The Frost Relic is stunned, unable to believe what it just witnessed. Without wasting a second, Chun rushes to his injured friend and helps him up. The boy weakly jokes that, in the end, Chun had to free himself, but Chun calmly replies that his effort was crucial to the plan. His expression turns serious as he warns that the monster is extremely dangerous. They cannot afford to be frozen again. Suddenly, the entire mountain begins to tremble. A new and overwhelming threat rises as the Skeletal Lord prepares its ultimate attack, a massive sphere of condensed ice energy. The sheer power of it leaves both Chun and his teammate in shock as they stand near the edge of a cliff. The monster laughs wickedly, confident in its victory. The boy with glasses panics, knowing there is no way to dodge such an attack. The sphere grows rapidly before detonating in a colossal explosion of ice and snow, engulfing the entire mountain in a frozen storm. The Ice Lord ascends into the sky, convinced it has won, but then it suddenly stops, sensing something strange below. Looking down into the crater, it sees a figure moving within the frozen devastation. There stands Chun. He has taken on a new class 1 that renders him completely immune to ice attacks. Seeing this, the Frost Relic is both shocked and enraged. His teammate stares in disbelief, asking what happened to Chun's powers, to his assassin class. He begins to realize something incredible, that Chun is not normal. He is one of those extremely rare awakened individuals. Chun then reveals the truth: he is a dual-class awakened. The revelation leaves everyone stunned. With a calm voice, Chun apologizes for misjudging the situation and putting his friends in danger. Then, clenching his fist, he promises that this ends now. As his class switches again, his entire aura transforms. He becomes something far more terrifying, a being of abyssal power, ready to destroy everything in his path. The boy with glasses is left completely speechless as he witnesses Chun's new form. Normally, an awakened can only possess a single class in their entire life. But in rare cases, some awaken with 2 classes, and they are highly sought after by every guild. Yet now, he realizes the truth is even more unbelievable. Chun doesn't just have 2 classes. He has more. The first is the lightning elemental assassin he already knew. The second, a frost-type class with a skeletal mask. And now, a third emanating a dark, abyssal aura, wielding a massive sword. Each of these classes is incredibly powerful on its own, and yet Chun possesses them all. A shockwave of blue mana exploding outward as a streak of light tears through the air. In less than a second, he's already above the Skeleton King, far too fast to follow, far too fast to react. His sword rises and energy condenses along the blade, growing denser with every heartbeat. Milan's eyes widen again. Something has changed. The suffocating pressure that once poured from the Skeleton King is gone, completely gone. For the first time, the monster hesitates, and within that hesitation, it feels something it has never known before: fear. Chun's voice slices cleanly through the silence. Star Soldier, triple calamity, overload mode. The blade falls. For a fraction of a second, nothing happens. Then a thin line appears across the Skeleton King's body and it splits. Chun lands smoothly, one knee touching the ground, his sword embedded beside him with perfect control. Behind him, the monster's body separates midair before collapsing completely, bone fragments crashing down like rain. The battlefield falls silent, broken only by the echo of impact. A system notification flickers into existence. Experience gained, over 5,000. Level up. Chun is now level 17. He doesn't celebrate. He doesn't react. To him, it's just another outcome. Milan stumbles forward, his legs barely holding him up before he drops to his knees beside the shattered skull. He stares at it as if expecting it to move again, his voice barely escaping his lips. Of course, Chung could do it. This wasn't a fight against a second-rank monster lord. This was erasure. Behind him, Chun rises to his feet and speaks calmly, as if nothing extraordinary has happened. Aren't the other just still frozen? The words hit Milan like a shock. His face drains of color as realization crashes down on him. Chung, you. He had completely forgotten. Cursing himself, he spins and sprints toward them without another thought. Meanwhile, Chun walks quietly toward the severed head of the Skeleton King. Notification hovers in front of him, waiting. He lifts his hand, and a deep red aura forms around it, dense, heavy, almost hungry. The skull begins to break apart, not shattering, but dissolving. Strands of energy peel away from it, drawn toward his palm as if being devoured. The flow continues steadily, the energy feeding into him until nothing remains. Then it stops. Chung closes his fist. The red aura flickers once, then settles. Devouring. Complete. A final notification appears. New class acquired. Bone Leech King. For the first time, Chung pauses not out of hesitation, but because something unexpected follows. Another class appears. Cloud Mage. This one is different. It didn't come from the dream realm, nor from any system-triggered event. This one is real. He exhales slowly, letting the realization settle as he processes it without outward reaction. Then his gaze shifts slightly to the side. The floating robocam nearby is frozen solid, encased in ice from the earlier Arctic nova. No movement, no recording, no evidence. Everything that just happened remains hidden from the world. And with time still left on the clock, a perfect score is already guaranteed. A yellow notification suddenly flashes before him, pulling his attention back. Chun's eyes narrow slightly as he reads it. Lightning Assassin has leveled up. 1 star point gained. A rare stat increase. He studies the message for a moment, calm and composed as always, then quietly murmurs that he got a star, nothing more, nothing less. In another dungeon, the situation couldn't be more different. Team Gaong is barely holding together. In front of them stands a D-rank boss, a massive, grotesque, man-eating plant. The battlefield is in ruins. The ground is torn apart, vines lashing through the air like blades. Thick, root-like tendrils coil and strike relentlessly, dragging hunters off their feet as chaos spreads. One mage struggles desperately, barely maintaining a glowing purple chain wrapped around the monster, his voice cracking under pressure as he shouts that it's too strong. Another yells that he won't be able to hold it much longer. At the front line, an archer fires arrow after arrow from a thunderbow, but each shot lands and falls uselessly. Unable to pierce the creature's defenses, the monster retaliates with violent force. Its roots slam outward, sending bodies crashing across the battlefield. One hunter hits the ground hard, gasping for breath. This isn't something they were prepared for. Their training falls apart under the pressure. Fear begins to spread. Their formation breaks. Control slips away. And then, a voice cuts cleanly through the chaos. Gaodong. All eyes turn toward him. He stands behind them, completely still, untouched by the panic around him. Two mages stand at his back, channeling their energy into him, their mana flowing steadily into his body. Slowly, his aura begins to rise. Then, it ignites. Flames coil around him, tightening and intensifying with each passing second. His eyes burn a deep, piercing red, locked onto the monster with absolute focus. That's enough, he says. He draws his sword and vanishes. The ground beneath his step shatters as he moves. In an instant, he appears directly in front of the monster. No hesitation, no pause. His blade drives straight into its core. Energy gathers at the point of impact, unstable and violent, trembling with destructive force. Then he roars. Flame Soldier. Saffron blade burst. The world flashes white and explodes. Flames erupt from within the monster, tearing through its body from the inside out. They don't spread outward, they consume everything from within. In mere seconds, the massive creature collapses into burning fragments, reduced to nothing. Then silence. The boss is gone. Then the team erupts. Cheers break out, voices filled with relief and disbelief. They call it insane. They call him unstoppable. Their president, their leader, their strongest. A robocam floats forward, its voice calm and mechanical as it announces the result. Dungeon cleared successfully. Total time, 35 minutes. The team freezes, then realizes what that means. They cleared a D-rank dungeon in under half an hour, with a 3 times multiplier. That's 150 points. A perfect score. A new record. Gao Tong calmly sheaths his sword. While the team celebrates behind him, he has already moved on. Turning away, he speaks without looking back. Let's go. Time to check the ranking. As they walk toward the exit, fully convinced of their achievement, none of them realize that something far beyond their expectations has already taken place. In the hall, chaos lingers like a heavy shadow. Injured students are scattered across the space, wrapped in bandages, their faces pale and drained of color. Some sit in silence, staring blankly, while others struggle to steady their breathing. One student trembles uncontrollably, his voice breaking as he continues to beg the monsters for his life, unable to separate himself from the nightmare he just escaped. Nearby, a girl collapses into tears, her voice shaking as she describes just how overwhelming and terrifying the monsters were, her words spilling out between sobs. Gong Shan looks over the scene and scoffs, but then his gaze shifts and stops. Off to the side of the hall sits Chun's team. Ming and the others are relaxed, sitting casually as if nothing unusual has happened. And at the center, Chun stands quietly, composed as ever. Gong Shan's eyes narrow. This doesn't match what he expected at all. Still, he doesn't question it for long. Instead, he convinces himself of a simpler answer: they must have quit early. A faint smirk forms on his lips as he starts walking toward them, ready to expose what he believes is the truth. But before he can get close, a voice cuts through the hall. Gong Ying calls out to him. The sudden interruption stops Gong Chang mid-step. He turns slightly annoyed, but his attention shifts as his eyes move past Chun and land on the figure standing behind him, Carl Cavendish. A slow, deliberate clap echoes through the hall, instantly drawing everyone's focus. Cabinet moves forward with complete control, his presence alone enough to silence every conversation. The air itself seems to still as he speaks, his voice calm yet filled with undeniable authority as he praises the performances witnessed today behind him. The principal and Gong Lin enter as well, their presence only adding to the weight of the moment. The entire hall falls silent. Gong Shan's earlier arrogance disappears, replaced by excitement the moment he realizes who has arrived. At the same time, Gong Ting steps forward confidently, lifting his hand as if expecting recognition, but Caesar doesn't even spare him a glance. He walks straight past him. The gesture is simple, but its meaning is absolute. Gong Ting's hand remains hanging in the air, his expression frozen as Cavendish continues forward without pause. Step by step, he approaches until he stands directly in front of Chun. Then he speaks, his tone steady as he calls Chun remarkable and reveals the truth to everyone present. Chun's team cleared the deranged devil's cave. In just 21 minutes, a murmur ripples through the hall. This isn't just impressive, it's something even professional teams would struggle to achieve. Gong Shan's expression tightens as his earlier assumptions collapse completely, leaving no room for doubt. Yet at the center of it all, Chun's team remains steady, unaffected by the attention, and Chun himself stands as calm as ever. He acknowledges Candace with quiet respect, but his thoughts are already moving ahead. He knows exactly who stands before him, the vice chairman of the World Guild Alliance, one of the most powerful figures in the world. And that realization brings a question to the front of his mind. Why would someone like him come here? Cavendish studies Chun for a moment longer, as if confirming something only he can see. Then he repeats Chun's name, committing it to memory, a faint hint of approval crossing his expression. Almost as an afterthought, he turns his head toward Gonglin and acknowledges Gong Ting-uk's performance as well, praising his ability to lead a team through the same challenge at such a young age. Gong Lin responds with polite humility, but his gaze lingers, thoughtful and sharp, as the weight of everything that has just been revealed settles over the hall. Gong Yan's gaze shifts slowly, drifting toward his son, Gong Ting. There is clear approval in his eyes. With that, Cavendish decides it is time to leave. He turns calmly, noting that it's getting late, and begins walking out alongside the principal. As he exits, he casually remarks that discovering talents like these is like finding rare prodigies. His words remain in the air even after he is gone, leaving a quiet weight behind. A moment later, Gong steps forward and clears his throat, pulling everyone back from their thoughts. The sound alone is enough to draw all attention toward him. He announces the final results of the assignment. Both teams have achieved perfect scores, a tie for a brief second. The words simply hang there. Then their meaning settles. Sean the hall erupts. Excitement bursts from every corner. Mailing jumps to his feet, unable to contain himself, shouting in celebration as the realization hits him. The rest of Chun's team follows, their tension finally breaking as relief and joy take over. Even the opposing team reacts with excitement, understanding what this means for them. Entry into the Empire Guild, a direct path to the top. But in the middle of all that celebration, one person remains completely still. Gong Ting. Gong Yan raises the stakes even further, his voice steady as he continues. Both Gong Ting and Chun will be granted core management positions within the Empire Guild, and the prize money 1 million will be split equally between them. This time Chun reacts not outwardly but internally. His expression doesn't change, but his thoughts sharpen instantly. He remembers the promise he made to Chinky. 1 million within a month with only half the reward. That promise becomes uncertain. 50% isn't enough and delaying isn't an option. In that instant, he reaches a clear conclusion. He will have to find another way to earn the remaining 500,000. And quickly, while Chen quietly calculates his next move, Gong Ting finally breaks his silence. He steps forward and rejects the result. In his mind, there cannot be winners. There can only be one. His eyes lock directly onto Chun, filled with unwavering determination as he demands a one-on-one tiebreaker. Shock ripples across the hall once again, cutting through the lingering excitement. Gong Yan reacts immediately, moving forward with urgency as he tries to shut it down. He insists that the assessment is already over, that its high is the best possible outcome, and that there is no need to push things further. He assumes Chun will refuse, but Chun doesn't hesitate. He accepts. The shift is immediate. The noise fades, and the entire hall falls silent once again. Chun's calm expression remains unchanged, but his focus narrows completely. His condition is simple. If he wins, he takes the entire 1 million. Gongting steps forward without a second thought and accepts just as quickly. If Chun can defeat him, then he can have it all. At the far end of the hall, just as he is about to leave, Cavanagh slows his steps. He turns slightly, a faint smile forming on his face. His interest has returned. Back in the hall, Chun and Gongting begin walking toward each other. Step by step, the distance between them disappears. Their eyes meet, neither willing to yield, both fully aware of what is at stake. The atmosphere tightens, growing heavier with every passing second. And as they finally stand face to face, after that, we are shown a short time skip, and we see Qingzi speaking. He looks at Chun with clear amazement and says that he originally thought Chun only had the strength to take first place. However, he never expected him to completely shatter the record with a perfect score. Chun's achievement has spread everywhere, and he's now all over the news. Qingzi admits that it seems he made a very wise decision. He tells Chun that there's no need to repay the 1.5 million anymore, and that Chun should simply consider it as his investment in him. The scene then shows Qingzi and Chun sitting across from each other. Chun appears slightly confused, as if he's been thinking deeply about something. After a moment, he firmly responds that no, a debt is still a debt, and he must repay it no matter what. He then explains that he came here today to say two important things. Hearing this, Qingzi calmly agrees and tells him to go on. Chun begins by saying that the first thing is about the repayment deadline. He respectfully asks for a 1-week extension. He explains that since the graduation assessment ended in a tie for first place, he ended up receiving 500,000 less than he had expected. Because of that, he will be participating in a one-on-one tiebreaker match with the other champion. He further reveals that this match will take place 1 week from now, inside a dangerous location known as the Wild Devil's Cave, which lies just outside the school. The moment Qingzi hears this, his expression immediately changes to shock. He can hardly believe what he's hearing. In a worried and almost panicked tone, he questions them, asking if the two of them mere students are really planning to enter a place like the Wild Devil's Cave. He points out that neither of them has undergone any professional guild training, emphasizing just how dangerous such a place is. His voice carries clear concern, showing that he is deeply unsettled by the risk Chun is about to take. After that, Chun calmly reassures him, telling him not to worry. He confidently explains that once he wins the tiebreaker in a week, he will receive the remaining 500,000. Not only that, but he also promises to hand over all the materials he gathers from the Devil's Cave, asking Qingzi to consider it as interest for granting him the 1-week extension. Hearing this, Qingzi falls silent for a moment, deep in thought. In his mind, he can't help but feel astonished. Chun is about to enter a place as dangerous as the Wild Devil's Cave, yet he doesn't show even the slightest hint of fear. Instead, the only thing on his mind is repaying his debt, and even the interest. Qingzi realizes that Chun is truly extraordinary, far beyond what he had initially imagined. Then Chun speaks again, his tone turning more serious. He says that there's one more reason he came to meet him today, something even more important. However, whatever Chun tells Qingzi next is not revealed to us. The scene deliberately hides this information, but from Qingzi's reaction, it's clear that he is completely shocked after hearing it. His expression changes drastically, leaving us with a sense of mystery about what Chun could have possibly said. The story hints that the secret will be revealed later. Soon after, the scene shifts. We are taken to the afternoon of June 17th at Qingshan County, Kingshui Middle School. There, we see Si-Yun, who looks extremely happy as she excitedly says that the final exams are finally over and summer vacation has officially begun. She checks her phone and suddenly remembers something important, that today is also the day of her brother's graduation assessment. At that moment, her attention drifts to a photo of her brother, and she begins recalling a memory from 4 years ago. Back then, Chun had told her with excitement that elemental potential had been detected in his body and that he had been accepted into the National Awakener University. Hearing this in the past, Si-Yun had been overjoyed. With bright, hopeful eyes, she had asked him if that meant he was going to become an Awakener just like their mother and father. Chun had smiled and confidently replied that it was true. He told her that he would join a top guild and earn a lot of money. With determination in his voice, he promised her that he would make sure she lived a better life. Chun continues speaking to his little sister with determination in his voice, telling her that maybe, just maybe, he will also be able to uncover the truth behind their mother and father's disappearance. Hearing this, the young Si-Yun lights up with pure excitement and admiration. She happily praises him, saying that he's amazing and that her brother is the absolute best. With complete in him, she declares that he will definitely become an incredibly powerful awakener one day. Not long after that, another memory is shown. The two of them are talking again, and this time Chun wonders out loud why he still hasn't awakened yet. Despite the situation, he keeps a smile on his face and tries to stay positive, saying that it's totally fine and that it simply means he needs to keep working harder. However, behind that smile, things were not as simple as they seemed. From Si-yeon's perspective, we understand the truth. After getting into the Awakener University, her brother worked harder than anyone else. He gave it everything he had. Yet in the end, he became the only one who failed to awaken. As she watched everyone around him awaken one by one, she realizes how lonely he must have felt during that time. Even so, he never showed that pain to her, always hiding his struggles behind a calm and reassuring smile. As these thoughts run through her mind, the scene transitions back to the present. Si-yeon is still standing there, lost in her memories, when suddenly one of her friends arrives and calls out to her. The girl excitedly asks if she has heard the news. She then reveals that the National Awakener University has produced 2 genius graduates this year. Both of them led their teams to achieve perfect scores. She goes on to say that even the vice chairman of the guild alliance personally met them and praised them highly. And now the news is spreading everywhere. According to her, their entire Kangshan County is about to become famous because of this. Then she suddenly remembers something and asks Si-yeon if her brother also studies at that same university. At that moment, a pink-haired boy walks into the scene. Though his true intentions aren't clear, he greets Si-yeon politely, wishing her a good afternoon. He then tells her that he has booked a penthouse private room at the Zifeng building and casually asks if she will be free at 8 p.m. The narration then reveals his identity. His name is Jin Duoksun, and he is a student from Shimizu University. Seeing this, Jatong is completely shocked. However, Si-yeon looks deeply frustrated. Without saying much, she suddenly starts walking ahead at a very fast pace, almost as if she's trying to escape her own thoughts. Watching her rush off like that, Jatong calls out in confusion, asking why she's walking so fast. Even the pink-haired boy is left surprised by her sudden reaction. At the same time, Si-yeon is lost in her own thoughts. In her heart, she can't stop thinking about how her brothers, classmates are making headlines everywhere for achieving perfect scores in their graduation assessment. Meanwhile, her own brother couldn't even manage to awaken. The thought hurts her deeply, and she feels a wave of sadness wash over her. She becomes emotional, almost on the verge of tears, thinking about how unfair it all feels. Determined to do something for him, she tells herself that she needs to hurry home and prepare a huge feast to cheer him up. In that moment, she looks both incredibly cute and heartbreakingly emotional. The scene then shifts to night. We see Chun sitting at a table filled with a variety of delicious dishes. The food looks incredibly tempting, clearly prepared with great care and effort. Seeing all of it, Chun is surprised and asks how she even managed to find the time to cook so much. However, Si-yeon doesn't respond. She simply sits there quietly, her silence speaking more than words. At the same time, the television in the background is playing the evening news. The broadcast announces that earlier that morning, Dongshin National Awakener University successfully concluded its graduation combat assessment. It goes on to mention that the vice chairman of the Guild Alliance, Carl Cavendish, personally visited the scene and warmly interacted with the students. Meanwhile, Si-yeon quietly looks at her brother and continues thinking to herself. Just as she suspected, he is forcing himself to act strong again. Failing the graduation assessment would be a massive blow to anyone, yet he isn't showing even the slightest sign of it. Watching him like this only makes her heart ache even more, as she realizes how much he must be hiding behind that calm expression. After that, the news broadcast continues, and a female anchor begins reporting in a clear and professional tone. She explains that this year's graduation assessment has resulted in a highly rare outcome, a dual champions situation. 2 genius students each led their respective teams to achieve perfect scores. She adds that Vice Chairman Carl highly praised the assessment in front of the media and was particularly impressed by one of the team leaders who managed to secure a perfect score. She then clearly announces the name student Chun. The moment Si-yeon hears this, she is completely stunned. Her eyes widen in disbelief as she quickly turns toward the television. In shock, she repeats to herself that the one who achieved a perfect score is Chun. The realization hits her all at once, leaving her frozen in place as emotions begin to surge within her. Right after this, the scene abruptly shifts to a completely different location. There, we see a hunter standing with his body covered in blood, marked with numerous scratches and wounds, as if he had just gone through a brutal battle. In front of him stands a man speaking in a cold, unforgiving tone. He says that he had set everything up: the stage, the opportunity, even the audience, and yet the performance was completely ruined. It is then revealed that this man is none other than Gong Ting's father, and the injured person before him is Gong Ting himself. His father continues, his voice filled with disappointment and anger. He tells Gong Ting that he didn't win, he lost to some unknown nobody. The words cut deep, especially as we see the injuries covering Gong Ting's body, blood still seeping from his wounds. Without showing any sympathy, his father declares that from now on, Gong Ting will no longer be allowed to make his own decisions. Everything has already been arranged for the upcoming combat tiebreaker that will take place in a week. He coldly states that since Gong Ting is incapable of handling it on his own, he will step in and ensure the outcome himself by any means necessary. In his eyes, there is only one acceptable result. First place can belong to no one else but the Gong family. His tone remains icy and merciless throughout, making it clear that he is willing to do whatever it takes to secure victory. Chun speaks in a calm yet observant tone, analyzing the situation carefully. It is reported that this graduation assessment produced a highly rare dual champion outcome. As he continues, his focus sharpens on the battlefield in front of him. There are always two lionesses engaging him in close combat, pressing him from the front with relentless coordination. Meanwhile, the other two remain on standby at a distance, watching, waiting for the right moment to intervene. And above all of them, the Lion King maintains the greatest distance. Despite being their lord, it never involves itself directly, it never dirties its own hands. At that very moment, the panthers begin advancing toward him, preparing to strike. Chun reacts instantly, moving forward with incredible speed to meet them head-on. As he closes the distance, he mutters with a hint of curiosity. The abilities of this Lion King lord are very strange. Now standing right before where the Lion King should be, he presses forward, continuing his analysis. Whenever I find an opening and attempt to attack it, in a flash, he strikes down one of the panthers effortlessly. However, just as quickly, the Lion King vanishes from its position. Chun's eyes narrow as he realizes what has happened. It reappears next to the lioness farthest away from me. The realization deepens. Their movements are not random. They are calculated. They rapidly adjust their positioning based on the situation. But their formation remains eternally unchanged. He turns his gaze toward the Lion King again, attempting to gather information through the system, but nothing appears. There is no data, no readable detail. It's as if the system itself cannot comprehend that entity. I still can't manage to hit the lord of this floor. After the intense graduation assessment battle finally comes to an end, a notification echoes in his mind. His lightning assassin class has gained a star. Class proficiency increased. Chun reflects on this quietly, understanding something important. By frequently using a specific class, its proficiency can indeed increase. A small, but crucial realization, one that could shape the outcome of future battles. After that, he continues in a low, steady voice. But even so, as his words trail off, the scene reveals numerous panthers surrounding him from all directions, their presence tightening like a noose. The tension in the air grows heavier with each passing second. Just then, the perspective shifts, and we are shown Ling Yu, who watches everything with sharp, attentive eyes. She speaks with clear astonishment. The extent of that guy's power has increased so much in such a short period of time. Meanwhile, inside the Devil Tower, Chun stands alone, his body crackling with intense lightning energy that continuously surges outward, illuminating the space around him. The sheer force radiating from him makes it evident that he is no longer the same as before. The scene shifts once again, revealing Carl Cavendish. With a composed demeanor, he simply says, "Good work. Eat the meat first." His tone is casual, yet carries an underlying authority. Ling Yu, however, seems to have something more on her mind. She looks at him and adds, "There is one more thing. I've recently noticed a suspicious individual as well. He made contact with you not too long ago." Carl Cavendish pauses slightly before responding, uttering a single name, Kite. Ling Yu continues, presenting the information she has gathered. These are all the reports compiled so far over the past year. It hasn't exposed any traces whatsoever. Her words imply that despite careful observation and investigation, this individual remains completely untraceable. It is then revealed that this moment takes place on the night of the graduation combat assessment. As Carl casually tastes the food in front of him, he remarks with satisfaction, as expected, "Dongshin Nation's premium Wagyu beef is the most delicious. How is progress on your end?" The scene cuts again, returning to an earlier moment when we saw Si-Yun. She stands there, overwhelmed, her voice trembling slightly as she says, "He really made it to the top." Confusion fills her mind as she struggles to fully comprehend what she has witnessed. Lost in her thoughts, she murmurs to herself, "My silly brother." Her emotions begin to overflow, deeply moved by what she has just seen, unable to hold back the wave of feelings rising within her. We then see Yen at the moment she first learns about the news. Her mind is in complete turmoil as she thinks to herself, "Brother, my own brother." She can hardly believe what she's hearing. During the graduation assessment, not only did he lead his team to a perfect score, but he was even personally praised by the vice chairman of the Guild Alliance. The shock overwhelms her completely. Her eyes remain fixed on the television as the report continues. The broadcast announces that Vice Chairman Carl highly praised this assessment in front of the media and specifically singled out one of the team leaders who achieved a perfect score for special recognition, Student Chun. Hearing this, Yun is left utterly stunned. The realization hits her all at once: her brother is the top scorer. The reporters continue, emphasizing the statement. Chairman Carl declared that Student Chun's performance left a deep impression. He also expressed hope that Dongshin Nation will continue to work hard and cultivate even more outstanding talents, highlighting that the genius students each led their teams to perfect scores. Still trying to process everything, Yun turns toward her brother, her voice uncertain yet desperate for confirmation. "That Chun they just mentioned on TV, is that you?" Chun, completely calm and unfazed, casually replies, "Yeah, what's up?" The moment those words leave his mouth, The spoon slips from Yun's hand and falls, the sound echoing her shock. Her thoughts race as a chilling realization forms in her mind. They might have already noticed us. The scene then shifts back to the Devil Tower, where Chung continues his analysis in a composed tone. It's truly too abnormal. I've spent over half a month on the first floor of the Devil Tower, and I've almost slaughtered every single monster on this floor. His voice remains steady, but the weight of his progress is undeniable. I've now completely adapted to fighting in a 10 times gravity environment. There is no hesitation in his words, only quiet confidence. Currently, none of the 4 classes 1 possess have reached their limit. Standing there, surrounded by the aftermath of countless battles, Chun's growth feels almost unnatural, his strength still climbing. With no visible ceiling in sight, he continues in a focused, analytical tone. I allocated the star I obtained into the most critical stat for an assassin speed. In front of him, several panthers emerge, advancing rapidly as they prepare to attack. Chun doesn't hesitate. He activates his lightning class, electricity surging across his body as he readies himself for battle. In the very next instant, he unleashes his technique divine. Flashed, his figure blurs as he moves at incredible speed, almost impossible to track with the naked eye. Even as he moves, his mind keeps analyzing the situation. Just what exactly is this Lion King's class? A panther lunges toward him, but before it can even react, Chun strikes with his thunder dagger, eliminating it in a single, clean motion. His expression sharpens as he notices the same pattern repeating. This move again. Whenever I try to kill a lioness, the lioness will also vanish instantly. At the same time, more monsters begin pouring out from newly formed portals, increasing the pressure around him. Watching this unfold, he continues, and then reappear next to the Lion King. As soon as I stop, a lioness will charge forward to bait me into attacking. 2 more panthers rush toward him from different directions. Without breaking his rhythm, Chun draws both of his daggers and dashes forward, cutting them down in a single swift sequence. However, as their bodies fall, 2 more portals appear in their place, releasing even more enemies onto the battlefield. Taking in the entire situation, Chun narrows his eyes, fully aware of the precision behind their movements. They strictly maintain their formation, coordinating flawlessly. Surrounded by endlessly spawning enemies in a perfectly synchronized formation, he still cannot break. The battle continues fast, relentless, and increasingly complex. Once again, the monsters surge forward toward him, closing in from all directions to attack. Chun responds instantly, moving with precision as he strikes them down one after another. However, the moment they fall, the exact same pattern repeats itself. New enemies emerge, replacing the ones he just defeated as if nothing has changed. The cycle continues without pause, and amidst this never-ending clash, Chun finally voices his frustration, looping endlessly, launching an unceasing war of attrition against me. The realization begins to wear on him. This is not just a battle of strength or speed, it's a trap designed to exhaust him. Growing irritated, he suddenly turns, his thoughts racing. This guy is completely just toying with me. Then, as if something clicks in his mind, he pauses for a brief moment. Wait a minute, why am I trying to match them head-on with speed? With that realization, Chun immediately changes his approach. He leaps upward into the air, creating distance between himself and the incoming enemies. At that exact moment, a notification appears before him. Switching class. A faint glow surrounds him as the transition begins. His expression turns calm and decisive as he continues. Since you don't want to fight me head-on, then why should I not use a mage class to deal with you? Another notification follows almost instantly. Class switch complete. As the energy around him settles, a new presence emerges. Chun now stands in an entirely different form, wielding a new kind of power. Before us, his newly activated class is revealed. Frostbone Skeleton King. The battlefield, once dominated by speed and lightning, now feels like it's about to shift into something far colder and far more overwhelming. The transformation completed in an instant, his presence turning colder and more focused as he entered the first Pawn King state. Without wasting even a second, he activated his mage specialization and cast First Mage, First Strike. Thousands of razor-sharp ice crystals formed around him and shot downward like a storm, targeting the lioness below. The lioness reacted quickly, her instincts sharp as she dodged to the side and sprinted toward the Lion Lord, trying to regroup. But Chun remained calm in the air, his mind already analyzing everything. He understood their strength, close combat, but at range, they were vulnerable, and that was where he held absolute control. As the ice crystals continued forward, they suddenly shifted. Mid-flight, they curved sharply, changing direction in a way that defied expectation, now targeting the Lion Lord instead. The sudden redirection caught it off guard. At the last moment, the Lion Lord activated its teleportation ability, vanishing from its position and reappearing beside a nearby lioness. But Chun had already predicted that move. The moment the Lion Lord reappeared, the redirected ice crystals closed in from every side, trapping both it and the lioness within a confined frozen zone. Chun raised his hands slowly, his gaze steady and unshaken, locking them into a space where escape was no longer possible. Above him, mana began to gather, growing denser and more violent. He activated Loud Mage, Frost Blast Bomb, a massive spear of condensed ice formed overhead, trembling with destructive energy. Below, the trap lioness struggled desperately, panic setting in, but there was nowhere to run. No path left open. With a decisive motion, Chun brought the attack down. The moment it struck, the battlefield exploded in a violent surge of ice. The impact sent shards bursting outward, engulfing everything within range. When the chaos finally settled, silence took over. The entire area stood frozen, every lioness, and even the Lion Lord locked in place, completely immobilized. Chun dropped to the ground without hesitation, already shifting classes again. His aura flared as he transitioned into Infernal Axis. Drawing his H-rank sword, he moved forward immediately. For him, the fight was not over until every enemy was completely erased. His eyes glowed as he activated Stellar Warrior. Entering a heightened state of combat, his movements became sharper, faster, and far more precise. He unleashed a relentless series of strikes, each blow carrying crushing force. Finally, with one powerful vertical slash, he cut through the battlefield, shattering the frozen enemies. One after another, the lioness bodies collapsed. Their dark forms began to fade, dissolving into nothingness within seconds. Only the Lion Lord remained, his body still and unmoving. Chun stood quietly as the system responded. His level rose to 24, and rewards flooded in 4 Phantom Mode bones and 1 Phantom Mode art. But his attention shifted instantly to the Lion Lord's corpse. A Devourer notification appeared. Without hesitation, he stepped forward and placed his hand on the body. Energy began to flow as he activated Devourer. A thick mist started to rise around him as he forced the process, demanding to know its class, pulling the answer out through absorption. The rising mist from the Lion Lord's corpse was drawn completely into Chun's body, vanishing as if it had never existed. When he opened his hand, something new had formed, a card resting in his palm. The Phantom Lion King card. He stared at it for a moment, studying its details carefully, and then the realization settled in. This was a Tamer-type class. Everything about the battle suddenly made sense. The Lion Lord had never planned to fight directly. It had relied entirely on its contracted beast, keeping itself hidden behind them, while controlling the entire battlefield. Its teleportation, its careful positioning, the way it avoided direct confrontation, it had all been intentional, part of a calculated strategy. Chun's eyes moved across the card again, stopping at one ability in particular, Force Beast Contract. The power behind it was clear, but so was its condition. It demanded dominance. To control beasts like that, overwhelming strength and presence were necessary. Without that, the ability would fail. He absorbed the knowledge without hesitation, already thinking about how and when to use it. But before he could dwell on it further, the world around him suddenly began to change. The frozen battlefield dissolved like melting glass, the icy ground fading away until it was replaced by an endless desert. Dry wind brushed against him as bones scattered across the wasteland came into view. Chun looked around calmly, understanding immediately. This was the true form of the first floor of the Dead Sphere. The illusion had finally broken. What remained was nothing but death and emptiness. As he took in the desolate surroundings, a sharp cracking sound echoed from afar. In the distance, an orange portal slowly opened, radiating a steady, powerful energy. The path to the second floor had finally revealed itself. Chun shifted his focus toward it and began to move. But just as he did, a sudden chill ran up his spine. A presence, someone or something was watching him. He stopped instantly and turned, his eyes scanning the area with precision. Then he saw it. Far away, within the shadow of a massive bone structure, a single purple eye glowed back at him. Slowly, a white lion stepped forward, its body trembling, clearly wounded and barely able to stand. Its form was restrained, partially trapped within the skeletal remains around it. Chun narrowed his eyes. One survivor. Without hesitation, he activated his lightning class. Energy surged along his arm, crackling violently as it condensed into a sharp lightning dagger in his hand. Step by step, he moved forward, fully prepared to eliminate what remained. But as he got closer, something didn't feel right. The Lion Lord was already dead, yet this one hadn't disappeared. That meant only one thing: it had never been part of the Lion Lord's contracted beast. His gaze shifted slightly, and then he noticed them: chains. Not ordinary ones, but stellar chains tightly binding the white lion in place. It wasn't being controlled, it had been imprisoned. Understanding the situation instantly, Chun's intent changed. In one swift motion, he moved his arm not toward the lion, but toward the chains. The lightning blade flashed, slicing cleanly through the restraints. The chains shattered apart, breaking into fragments as their hold vanished. Freed at last, the white lion collapsed briefly, its body struggling to adjust after being bound for so long. Chun didn't wait. He turned away immediately and began walking toward the portal again. As he moved, a quiet thought passed through his mind. He had seen the look in the creature's eyes: pain, loss. This land had once been its home, and now everything was gone. That kind of emptiness. He understood it, but even so, he didn't stop. Survival came first. Moving forward was the only thing that mattered. Just as he reached the portal, a sudden flicker of purple light appeared in front of him. A system notification materialized in the air. A beast contract request had been initiated. The success rate 100%. When the beast itself initiated the contract, acceptance was guaranteed. Chun paused. Slowly, he turned back. Behind him, the small white lion now stood on its feet, its posture steadier despite the injuries. Its presence, though weakened, carried a quiet strength. A name revealed itself clearly within his vision: Lion King Leo. It was requesting a contract. Silence filled the space between them as the choice stood before him. Accept or refuse. Now, Chun looks at the lion and asks, "Do you want to follow me?" In response, the lion slowly nods its head. Seeing this, Chun continues in a calm but serious tone. "From now on, I will conquer every floor of this devil tower, one step at a time. With each floor, the monsters will become even more vicious. You could be injured, or even lose your life. Have you truly thought this through?" After hearing all of this, the lion once again gives a firm nod without hesitation. Chun lowers his gaze slightly, his eyes growing calm and resolute as he says, "I understand. Consent to sign the contract." At that very moment, a star-shaped symbol appears within his eyes, glowing faintly. A system notification flashes before him. "Lion King Leo, contract established. Finished." Soon after, another system screen appears, displaying Leo's status, though the details are not entirely clear. Alongside it, a new notification emerges. "Passive skills activated." Chun then looks at Leo and says, "All right then, let's head out together. Make sure to protect yourself while I'm fighting." Leo lets out a low sound, as if trying to respond with a confident yes, and with that, the two of them step forward side by side, entering the portal together. As soon as Chun steps inside, the sight before him leaves him completely stunned. The entire place is surrounded by flowing lava on all sides, radiating an intense, suffocating heat. Only a few scattered stone structures stand amidst the molten landscape, barely offering any sense of stability. Overwhelmed by the scorching temperature, Chun blurts out, "It's so hot. I feel like I'm going to melt at any moment." Beside him, Leo curiously moves closer and even tries to touch the lava, seemingly unfazed by the danger. Watching this, Chun narrows his eyes slightly and mutters, "I wonder what we'll encounter on this floor." But before he can think any further, a sudden attack rushes toward them at an unimaginable speed. In that split second, Chun tries to react, but it's already too late. Something pierces through his body instantly, leaving him no time to even process what happened. His vision fades, and just like that, his life ends on the spot. The next moment, Chun jolts awake in his bed, his breathing uneven. A faint, almost disbelieving laugh escapes him as he says, "I was killed in an instant, yet I hadn't even caught a glimpse of the monster. Just what kind of terrifying power was that? What exactly is the monster on the second floor?" Just then, a voice calls out from the other room. "It's Siyun. Bro, come out and eat breakfast." The scene shifts to the dining table, where a full spread of breakfast has already been prepared. The food looks incredibly delicious and abundant. Seeing it, Chun can't help but say, "This breakfast is an absolute feast." From the other side, Siyun adds casually, "Bro, remember to wash the dishes in the sink after you eat. Also, hang the clothes from the washing machine in 30 minutes. Watching her hurry away, Chun calls out, "Zhao Yun, where are you going in such a rush? Hasn't summer vacation already started?" Without stopping, Siyun replies, "My summer job." Hearing that, Chun looks surprised and says, "Didn't I tell you that you could leave? The money matters to me." Siyun turns back toward him, her expression firm yet calm, and says, "My brother has made it to the top, so his sister can't fall behind. Besides, isn't staying home all summer boring?" With that, she quickly shuts the door behind her. From outside, her voice echoes one last time, "I'm off. Remember to wash the dishes and hang the clothes." After she leaves, Chun quietly finishes his chores. Once done, he heads toward his room, lost in thought. Yen has always been like this. She lives her life with grit and determination, no matter the circumstances. She is clearly still just a child, yet in front of her, I feel like the one being cared for. Once things at school are finished, I must deal with the Demon King wrath. I won't be able to stay by Zhao Yun's side for much longer. She is the only person I truly worry about. Suddenly, something clicks in his mind. He pauses and says, "Wait, perhaps I could do this." At that exact moment, a portal opens above him without warning. From within it, Leo drops straight down from above, falling right into the room. Chun turns around, a look of realization crossing his face as he says, "I actually managed to summon a contracted beast from the Dreamscape Devil Tower." But before he can think any further, Leo immediately begins looking around the room and within seconds, starts tearing apart anything he can get his claws on. Furniture, objects, anything within reach is not spared. Watching this chaos unfold, Chun sighs internally and begins to think, in that case, I can have Leo follow Zhao Yun while I'm away. I'll be able to notice the moment she encounters danger and rush to her side. Zhao Yun has loved cats and dogs since she was little. If it's a small lion, I'm sure she accept it. Just then, a loud crashing sound echoes from the other room. Chun rushes over at full speed, only to witness the complete mess Leo has created. Looking at the destruction, he mutters with a dry expression, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's not going to accept this." The scene then shifts outside. A CCTV camera is shown, completely destroyed. Nearby, a hunter or perhaps just a normal awakener lies in a terrible condition. His body trembles uncontrollably, clearly on the verge of collapse. blood flowing heavily from his wounds. In front of him, a terrifying sight appears: a demonic hand. Its appearance is eerily similar to the demon Chun had fought at the very beginning. The injured man, barely holding on, looks up in fear and weakly asks, what are you going to do? The demon slowly moves closer toward him. In the man's eyes, the reflection of that monster becomes visible, and it looks almost identical to the one seen at the start of the story, radiating the same overwhelming and sinister presence. The demon moves without hesitation. In a single, brutal motion, it drives its hand straight through the man's body. There is no time to react, no chance to escape. The attack is instant and absolute. The man's body goes limp, his life extinguished in that very moment. The scene shifts. We now see Yun walking through a nearby area after finishing her work. Stretching slightly, she sighs in relief and says, finally off work. There are far too many people buying milk tea during summer vacation. She carries a small bag in her hand as she makes her way forward. Step by step, she turns into a quiet alley, the same place where the CCTV cameras have been destroyed. The atmosphere feels unusually still. As she slowly walks deeper inside, a faint sense of unease begins to creep in. Just then, something brushes past her from behind. Startled, Young quickly turns around to look. Before she can process what's happening, a voice speaks from the shadows. You finally arrived. After that, we see a boy, and someone says, I've been waiting for ages, Iris. And it turns out, it's none other than Sterling Jin, a student from Clearwater High School. You've actually seen this guy before. Stepping forward with confidence, he continues, you ran off so fast at school last time. You completely missed my invitation. But don't worry, I went ahead and booked the entire top floor of Purple Peak Tower again for tonight. Hearing this, Si Yun's expression immediately hardens with irritation. She looks at him and asks, how do you even know where I live? The boy, striking a confident pose as if it's no big deal, replies, well, my father is the director of the city hospital. Getting a little information like that is nothing. At this point, Si Yun is clearly angry. She steps forward, her tone firm and cold as she says, we're not from the same world. Don't come looking for me again. But now, even the boy begins to lose his composure. Slightly irritated, he grabs her hand and says, do you have any idea how much effort it takes to book an entire floor of Purple Peak Tower? I invited a ton of people. You're seriously just going to stand me up and make me look like an idiot? Hearing that, Si Yun doesn't hesitate for even a second. With sharp confidence in her voice, she shoots back. Why would I care about making you look like an idiot? And by the way, don't you realize how incredibly creepy it is to lurk outside someone's home? Hearing that, the boy's expression instantly darkens. His pride clearly takes a hit as he snaps back. Creepy? Do you even know who you're talking to? His face twists with irritation, and he continues, his tone turning colder. Oh, just because I kind of like you doesn't mean you can talk to me like that. Then, anger rising even more, he adds threateningly, you have no idea what I could do to you. Before he can say anything further, Si Yun reacts without hesitation. With a burst of anger, she suddenly slams her head straight into his face. The impact catches him completely off guard. As he stumbles, she glares at him and says sharply, go get your head examined at your dad's Webomics hospital first. The boy clutches his face in pain as the bouquet slips from his hands and falls to the ground. Without sparing him another glance, Si Yun turns and walks away, her voice cold and final as she says, and stay away from me. You've completely killed my mood today. After that, the scene shifts to their home. As soon as Si Yun arrives, her mood seems to lift completely. The anger from before disappears. The moment she sees Leo, her face lights up with pure excitement as she rushes forward, scooping him up into a warm hug. With genuine delight in her voice, she says, where did you find such an adorable little thing? Chun smiles calmly and replies, his name is Leo. He's yours. Hearing that, Si Yun freezes for a moment in disbelief before her eyes widen with surprise. Wait, I actually get to keep a baby lion, she says, clearly thrilled. Then, looking more closely at Leo, she adds with curiosity, hang on. I thought only adult male lions grew manes. Leo is so tiny. But that mane is already enormous. She starts thinking about officially registering him, already treating him like part of the family. Watching all of this unfold, Chung can't help but feel relieved and happy. Seeing his sister so joyful, he quietly thinks to himself, looks like she and Leo are already best friends. Nothing left to worry about on the home front. Just then, his phone suddenly beeps, breaking the calm moment. A new notification appears on the screen, an important notice meant specifically for him. The moment he reads it, a faint smile slowly spreads across his face, as if everything is finally falling into place. There's a sense of quiet satisfaction in his expression, almost like he's been waiting for this exact moment. After going through the message, he mutters to himself in a low, confident tone, finally. Now everything can move forward exactly as planned. Next up, time to take care of that tiebreaker. 6 days from now. His words carry a subtle weight, hinting that whatever is about to happen has already been carefully set in motion long before this point. The scene then shifts forward in time, and we are shown a title marking the moment 6 days later. The date appears clearly, June 24th, 2157. It is the day of the long-awaited tiebreaker exam. The setting is introduced next, placing us on the outskirts of the city. In a place known as Greenlight Forest, the atmosphere here feels different, quiet, vast, and slightly ominous. As if danger is lurking just beyond sight, a host steps forward, addressing the two candidates with a firm and authoritative voice. You both tiebreaker candidates, listen up. Let me run through the exam details. He pauses briefly, making sure they are paying full attention before continuing. After extensive deliberation, the school has decided that this tiebreaker will take place inside the wild dungeon within Greenlight Forest. His words immediately raise the stakes, but he continues without hesitation. Equipment surveys have confirmed that this wild dungeon is rated D rank. As previously agreed, both candidates will undergo the exam inside the same dungeon. However, his tone grows more serious as he emphasizes the next point. Wild dungeon interiors are completely uncharted territory. He explains further, making the danger crystal clear. The danger level far exceeds anything found in the school's standard exam dungeons. The weight of the situation becomes undeniable now. This isn't just a test, it's something far more unpredictable. With that in mind, he adds, 3 senior guild members from across Easternia have been assigned as accompanying examiners. They will enter the dungeon with both candidates. The purpose of these examiners is then clarified. Their job is to keep you safe and to score your performance in real time. One by one, the 3 individuals are introduced. The first is Ivan, representing the Imperial Gilda, man whose presence alone suggests strength and authority. The second is Yasmin Sai from the Divine Eye Guild, her sharp gaze hinting at keen perception and intelligence. The third is Sato Woda of the Silver Guild, carrying an air of quiet experience and reliability. The host concludes with a final, decisive statement, leaving no room for doubt. Your final scores will be determined entirely by what the examiners see. The rules are simple, but the implications are heavy. Every action, every decision, and every moment inside that dungeon will matter. All of this unfolding situation was being quietly calculated in Gong Lin's mind. His thoughts were cold, precise, and deliberate, as if every piece of the puzzle had already been placed exactly where it needed to be. E3. Make sure you handle your end properly, clean. No loose ends. There was a silent authority in his thinking, the kind that hinted this wasn't just an exam, but something far more carefully orchestrated behind the scenes. At that moment, the principal turns toward the vice chairman and says, Vice Chairman, your Easternia schedule wrapped up 2 days ago, didn't it? The question carries a subtle curiosity, as if wondering why someone of his stature would still be present. Hearing this, the vice chairman responds without hesitation, his tone filled with interest and anticipation. So, why are you still asking? What could possibly be more interesting than what's about to unfold right here? It's been years since I've seen 2 genuine prodigies go head to head. I am absolutely not missing this. His words make it clear this isn't just another exam. This is a rare clash worth witnessing. Immediately after that, the host steps forward and formally declares in a loud, authoritative voice, I hereby declare National Awakener University, Class of 2157 Graduation Combat Exam Tiebreaker, Chun vs. Gongting, begin. With that announcement, both candidates move at the same time, stepping forward without hesitation and entering the portal side by side. The moment they cross over, the environment changes completely. The 3 senior examiners follow closely behind, entering the dungeon along with them. As soon as they arrive inside, Yasmin Sai looks around and comments, dead trees as far as the eye can see. Looks like a flower dungeon. The atmosphere is eerie and suffocating, with an unnatural stillness hanging in the air. The instant Chun steps in, something unusual happens. A system window suddenly opens in front of him, displaying a warning message, high danger creature detected. Seeing this, even he is visibly surprised. This is the first time I've ever seen the demon heart actually throw out a warning. He mutters, clearly unsettled. But just as quickly as it appeared, the warning disappears. Still processing what he just saw, he frowns slightly and thinks, can there really be high-ranked monsters lurking inside a D-rank dungeon? The question lingers, adding a layer of unease to the already tense environment. Without stopping, both candidates begin moving forward into the dungeon. Gongting takes the lead, walking ahead with confidence, while Chun follows a short distance behind, maintaining a steady pace. Meanwhile, far behind them, the 3 examiners keep a careful watch, observing every movement from a safe distance. Yasmin Sai speaks again, her voice slightly tense as she says, this fog is absolutely suffocating. Hearing that, Sato Woda immediately responds in a serious tone, addressing the others with clear caution. Stay on high alert, eyes on the examinees. Don't look away. The warning is simple, but the meaning is clear. Something about this dungeon isn't right, and any moment of carelessness could turn dangerous. Suddenly, the ground begins to crack open beneath them, the earth splitting apart with a sharp, unsettling sound. From within those fractures, a monster emerges, its presence immediately filling the area with danger. It is identified as a poison cage ant. The moment the creature reveals itself, Gongting reacts without the slightest delay. In one smooth motion, He draws his katana and lunges forward, closing the distance with incredible speed, clearly intent on eliminating the monster before it can fully act. Watching this, Sato Woda remarks with clear recognition of Gong Ting's skill. His reaction time is something else. A wild dungeon monster's aura, completely different breed from the ones back at school, faster, crueler, and they fight filthy. His warning proves true instantly. The poison cage ant launches a rapid barrage of venom attacks toward Gong Ting, each strike quick and lethal. But Gong Ting doesn't falter. With precise movements, he cuts through every incoming attack using his katana, advancing step by step until he reaches the monster. In a single decisive strike, he lands a powerful blow. However, the creature isn't completely finished yet. Without hesitation, Gong Ting follows up immediately, delivering one more clean attack that completely destroys the monster in an instant. As the battle ends, faint flames begin to flicker from his katana, emphasizing the sheer power behind his technique. Yasmin Sai, observing closely, analyzes his performance with sharp clarity. He moved the instant that monster showed its face, and shut down every single one of its ranged attacks without breaking a sweat. Field response 10 out of 10. Yvonne follows up, equally impressed. He tracked down and severed the monster's venom launching organ on the very first move, stripping it of any ability to keep fighting. Combat logic 10 out of 10. Sato Woda adds his own assessment, his tone firm and conclusive. And then, not even a heartbeat's hesitation. One finishing technique, one clean kill. Finishing power 10 out of 10. Positioning, crowd control, execution, all of it like a scalpel. Absolutely surgical. And this was a wild dungeon monster. He pauses briefly before continuing, emphasizing the significance. For a student to perform with that kind of ice cold composure and decisiveness, that is genuinely exceptional. But then, his tone shifts slightly as he brings up the comparison. Now compare that to the other examinee, Chun. He didn't so much as react when the monster appeared, just wandering around over there without a care in the world. A complete and total fail by any standard. Unbeknownst to them, Gong Ting hears every word, their evaluation echoing in his mind. The scene then shifts outside the dungeon, where a large group is watching everything unfold in real time. Among them, Vice President Carl Cavendish turns to the principal and asks, "What do you think Chun is actually after out there?" The principal, calm and thoughtful, replies, "My guess? He's hunting for." He pauses briefly, then continues with quiet certainty, "A way to sweep the whole thing in one move." At that exact moment, inside the dungeon, Chun suddenly stops moving. His expression sharpens, as if he has found exactly what he was looking for. In his hand, a lightning-infused dagger crackles with energy. With complete confidence, he mutters, "Found it." Without wasting a second, he strikes. The attack lands instantly, triggering a massive explosion that shakes the surroundings. The impact is overwhelming. Multiple monsters are forced out into the open at once, and many are wiped out in that single devastating move. Seeing this, Yasmin Kai's eyes widen in shock as she exclaims, "He's going straight for the monster nest. Has he completely lost his mind?" Sato Woda is just as shocked as everyone else, his composure breaking as he blurts out in alarm, "Those are D-rank monsters in there. You're going to get everyone killed out here." The sheer scale of what's happening is beyond what anyone expected. Even Gong Ting, who had just demonstrated flawless combat, is left stunned. Watching Chun's actions unfold, he mutters to himself in disbelief, "Is he actually going to?" At that very moment, the scene shifts to Chun, and what they see completely overturns everything they thought they knew about him. He appears in his lightning assassin avatar, his entire presence wrapped in crackling energy. Without hesitation, he activates a movement technique known as Flash God. The moment he uses it, everything changes. His speed becomes so overwhelming that it's nearly impossible to track him with the naked eye. He moves like a streak of lightning, vanishing and reappearing across the battlefield in an instant. One by one, the monsters are cut down, their bodies slicing apart almost simultaneously as flashes of light streak through them. It's not a fight, it's a complete massacre. The attacks are so fast and precise that the monsters don't even have time to react. Moments later, Chun lands calmly on the ground, as if nothing extraordinary just happened. Then, almost in slow motion, the bodies of all the monsters begin to fall around him, collapsing one after another. Watching this, the three senior examiners are left completely speechless. One of them finally manages to speak, his voice filled with disbelief. "What in the world did he just do?" The report had him listed as E-rank only. He just wiped out that many D-rank monsters at once. Isn't that just a little too broken? Yvonne, still processing what he witnessed, frowns slightly and says, "So, how exactly are we supposed to score this? There's really no way to justify giving this examinee a low score." But Sato Woda, still trying to regain control of the situation, suggests cautiously, "What if we flag his approach as dangerously reckless? Or say his technique range was too narrow, too repetitive?" His words feel less like a fair evaluation, and more like an attempt to make sense of something that clearly defies their expectations. Meanwhile, Gong Ting stands there in silence, genuinely shaken. For the first time, The gap between what he believed and reality is becoming painfully clear. Outside the dungeon, the spectators are just as captivated. Vice President Carl Cavendish lounges comfortably, casually eating chips as he watches the spectacle unfold. With a grin, he says, "You called it, you crafty old man. The exam has barely started, and we're already watching a clash this spectacular. Oh, this is going to be very, very interesting. I cannot wait to see how Gong Ting tries to respond to this." Standing nearby, Gong Lin doesn't share the same excitement. His expression tightens, clearly displeased by how things are unfolding. There's a growing tension in his face, as if something has already gone off script. And then, suddenly, something happens that no one was expecting. All the screens monitoring the dungeon begin to flicker. The visuals distort, turning blurry, just like what happened during the previous test. Within seconds, the display is overwhelmed with interference, and a warning appears across the screen's signal low. Seeing this, the principal frowns and says, Why is the signal cutting out again?" The scene immediately shifts to the outside of the dungeon, where several specialists are working frantically with their equipment, trying to figure out what's going wrong. Alerts keep flashing across their system's signal anomaly detected. Even more concerning, the dungeon's rank reading, which was previously stable at D rank, suddenly shifts and becomes unknown. One of the specialists, clearly panicking, shouts out, What on earth is happening to this dungeon?" Everyone's attention turns toward the dungeon gate. Slowly, something unnatural begins to occur. The gate itself starts to change. Earlier, a green light glowed steadily at its center, but now, that light begins to darken, shifting into a deep, ominous black. A voice breaks through the growing fear as one of the staff members points toward it and says in shock, "The entrance, it's gone." Right after that, the scene shifts back to Chun. Around his body, strange and unsettling fragments begin to swirl in the air, moving as if they carry a will of their own. There's something deeply unnatural about them, something that doesn't belong in an ordinary dungeon. As he watches them, his expression turns serious, and he says in a low voice, "This is the Demon King Wrath's voice." The realization clearly unsettles him, as if he has just identified something that shouldn't exist here at all. The scene immediately cuts back to the outside of the dungeon, where chaos is beginning to spread. One of the staff members shouts in panic, "The entrance just disappeared." Another responds, equally confused and alarmed, "We have no idea what's going on." The equipment suddenly started throwing signal errors, and then his words trail off, unable to explain what they're witnessing. The host, now visibly tense, steps in and starts issuing orders. "Move. Get someone on the line with command right now." Did something go horribly wrong inside that dungeon? The urgency in his voice makes it clear this situation is completely out of control, and whatever is happening was never part of the plan. This isn't something Chun, Gong Ting, or anyone else caused intentionally. Even they are caught off guard by the sudden turn of events. Back inside the dungeon, the atmosphere grows heavier with every passing second. Yasmin frowns slightly and says, "Hey, is anyone else hearing that?" Her voice carries a hint of unease. Sato Woda listens carefully before responding. "Yeah, it sounds like some kind of strange." But before he can finish, Chun speaks up, having already realized what it is. It's music, the Demon King Wrath's voice. Why is Wrath's voice coming from inside here? It's not supposed to appear for another 3 years. Just as he says that, the warning system activates again. A message flashes there is a high-ranked demon creature nearby. Chun's expression sharpens instantly. The demon heart is screaming another warning. "There's something right behind me." At that moment, all of them slowly turn around, their eyes drawn toward the source of the sound. The music, it's coming from there. The area ahead is completely engulfed in thick, suffocating fog, making it impossible to see clearly. The atmosphere becomes tense and heavy, fear creeping in as they try to make sense of what's hidden within. Watching the fog-covered area, one of the senior examiners says cautiously, "That place, it's completely covered in fog." His voice trails off as something begins to emerge from within. From the dense mist, a figure slowly steps forward, a monster unlike anything they've encountered so far. Its presence alone radiates a terrifying energy, so intense that it sends a chill through everyone present. And then, something even more shocking happens. The creature speaks. "Humans, you walked right into my hands." Hearing those words, Sato Woda's eyes widen in disbelief. That thing, it can talk. A monster that can form words. His shock quickly turns into realization. It has to be at least C rank. High tier. How does something like this exist inside a D rank dungeon? The question hangs in the air, unanswered, as the true danger of the situation finally reveals itself. At that moment, Sato Woda realizes the situation has completely crossed the line. His expression hardens as he understands. There's no longer any room to simply observe. Intervention is necessary. A monster at this level is going to tear the examinees apart, he says firmly. Without wasting another second, he forms a weapon and rushes forward, placing himself in front of the 2 students, standing protectively before them. He commands everyone, "Get behind me right now." But before anyone can even react or exchange a single word, something horrifying happens. In an instant, his arm is severed. The attack is so fast, so clean, that it takes a moment to even register what just occurred. The monster has already moved, appearing right behind him, as if it had been there all along. The sheer speed and power leave even the other senior examiners stunned, unable to comprehend what they just witnessed. Now the monster's attention shifts toward Gongting, looking at all of them with complete disdain. It speaks again, its voice filled with mockery. All of you, you're nothing but clowns in front of me. And before anyone can react, it strikes. Its hand pierces straight through Gongting's body, delivering a brutal and direct blow. You will die, it declares coldly. But Gongting's pride and willpower refuse to break. Even in that critical moment, his determination surges to another level. Gritting his teeth, his eyes burning with anger, he begins channeling all of his power. The flames around him intensify as he roars internally, refusing to back down. In one swift motion, he retaliates his flaming katana, cutting through the monster's limb in a single decisive strike. Even the monster seems momentarily surprised by his resilience. Without stopping, Gongting follows up by driving a powerful kick into the creature, forcing it back. However, the distance gained is minimal. The monster stabilizes itself almost instantly, barely affected, breathing heavily but still standing firm. Gongting turns slightly toward Chun and says with absolute conviction, "This overlord drew first blood on me, under the principle of combat priority. It belongs to me. Don't you dare interfere." Hearing this, Chun falls silent. Instead of arguing, he simply observes. Activating his ability, he quickly assesses the situation. Gongting's rank C rank, mid-tier. The monster C rank, high tier. The difference is clear, and the danger is undeniable. At that moment, the other senior examiners rush down toward them, their concern now overriding everything else. "Cole, you need treatment now," one of them says urgently. "I strongly recommend we suspend the exam and pull out right now. This monster is completely out of your league." But Gongting refuses to listen. Ignoring their warnings, he channels the heat from his own flames, forcing it into his wound. The injury begins to burn as he tries to seal it through sheer force. Watching this, Chun's eyes narrow slightly as he realizes what's happening. He's using the raw heat of his own flames to cauterize the wound. Gongting's anger finally erupts completely. With a fierce glare, he snaps, "Recommendation rejected." At the same time, an intense surge of flame energy bursts from his body, growing stronger and more violent with each passing second. His presence alone becomes overwhelming, heat radiating in waves as he roars. "This fight doesn't end until one of us is down." Without hesitation, both he and the monster charge straight at each other, their clash about to ignite at any moment. The tension inside the dungeon reaches its peak, raw power against raw power, neither side willing to back down. At that exact moment, the scene cuts to outside the dungeon, where the situation is just as critical. A white-haired man steps forward, his expression calm but serious as he speaks with authority. "We've seen dungeon entrances vanish before. It means there's something with genuine intelligence operating inside. It opens the entrance on purpose, lures humans in, and then snaps the trap shut with them inside." The identity of this man is revealed: Silas Lin, the leader of the King Squad from the Imperial Guild. His words immediately send a chill through everyone present. The host, clearly shaken, turns toward him and demands, "Then what the hell do we do? Is there really no way to force the entrance back open?" Gongting is still trapped in there. Silas Lin responds without hesitation, his tone sharp and commanding. "There's only one way to make that exit reappear. Someone on the inside has to track down and kill the overlord." Hearing this, the host tries to reason it out, clinging to what should have been normal. A standard D-rank dungeon maxes out at one C-rank overlord, and their average power sits at C-rank. That's completely workable, right? But Silas Lin cuts him off immediately, his voice turning colder. "Not so fast. That's so-called D-rank reading?" He pauses briefly before delivering the truth. "That's just the overlord faking it. A mask it wears to disguise the dungeon's true nature." The realization begins to sink in, but he continues, making the situation even more terrifying. "Based on everything I've been able to observe, this dungeon is almost certainly behind every awakener disappearance we've been investigating." There's a brief silence as everyone processes his words. Then he delivers the final blow, his voice heavy with certainty. "What we're actually standing in front of right now is an extraordinarily dangerous B-rank dungeon." After that, the monster immediately lunges at Gongting, attacking him with full power. As we already know, the monster is far stronger, and it begins pushing Gongting backwards step by step. During this exchange, Gongting suffers several cuts as he struggles to keep up with the relentless assault. The pressure keeps building until the monster unleashes a heavy, devastating attack. But at the last moment, Gongting dodges it with a swift jump and, with sharp confidence, says, "Your guard is down." At that very instant, his katana begins to glow, radiating energy. With a determined look, he follows up, "I've got you now." In a single decisive strike, he swings his blade and cleanly severs the monster's head from its body. The battlefield falls silent for a moment as the massive creature collapses. Watching this unbelievable scene, all the seniors are left completely stunned. Chun, still shaken and disoriented, stares at the aftermath in disbelief. Yasmin's sigh breaks the silence, exclaiming, "No way. Cole actually took out the Overlord solo? Cole's power is seriously nothing to laugh at." Meanwhile, Yvonne is seen reattaching Sato Woda's hand back to his body. As he works, he asks, "You with me? You should be coming around by now." Sato Woda, regaining consciousness, responds with relief. "Thank God you got to me in time." But just then, his attention shifts to his bracelet as it starts flashing alerts. Looking at it, he says, "Wait, my bracelet just lost signal? We're cut off from the outside." Yvonne replies that the same thing has happened to him. Yasmin Sai, observing the situation, adds, "Every signal's dead. The compass positioning system is completely fried too." Right after that, Sato Woda notices something else and looks toward the camera drones scattered around. Confused, he mutters, "When did the camera drones go down?" Gong Ting, standing nearby, silently observes all of this, realizing that something far more serious is unfolding beyond just the battle they fought. Then, right behind them, something even more shocking begins to happen. The body of the monster Gong Ting had just killed starts to slowly regenerate. Its severed form begins pulling itself back together, as if nothing had happened. Within moments, it starts rising again alive. But this time, it moves with even greater speed and aggression, rushing straight toward Gong Ting with the intent to kill. However, before it can even touch him, a blur of motion cuts through the battlefield. In an instant, the monster is shredded into countless tiny pieces, completely torn apart before it can react. The one who did this doesn't stop. He slices through the creature and dashes past it in a single, fluid motion. That person was Chun. Seeing this, everyone is left stunned. Gong Ting, still trying to process what just happened, says in disbelief, "I literally chopped its head off. So, why is it still moving?" Chun, now calm but serious, explains the truth. That thing was never the Overlord. Not from the start. It was hypnotized the whole time. That's why it kept going even after it died. His expression turns grim as he gives a warning to everyone present. "All of you, get out of this dungeon now, because whoever gets hypnotized next might just be you." His words send a chill through the group. Gong Ting looks at him directly and asks, confused, "You? How do you even know that?" Before Chung can answer, Sato Woda reacts sharply, almost angrily. "Are you out of your mind? There's only ever one C-rank Overlord in this dungeon. That monster is at least high-tier C-rank. Of course it's the Overlord. What else could it be?" At that moment, Chun recalls the warning screen he had seen earlier. As he looks ahead, that same message flashes again in his mind. And now everything makes sense to him. That monster was never the true Overlord. At the same time, from the nest they had seen earlier, a strange and unsettling sound begins to emerge. It starts off faint, almost unnoticeable, but gradually it grows stronger, spreading through the entire area. That eerie sound wave begins to take control of everyone present, slowly pulling them under its influence. Realizing what's happening, Chung calmly adjusts the earphone in his ear and mutters with certainty, "Too late. That sound wave. I know it anywhere. In my past life, Wrath used that exact frequency to hypnotize and massacre ordinary humans, millions of them worldwide." As those words leave his mouth, all of his companions fall completely under the monster's control. Their eyes lose focus, their movements turn unnatural, and they begin to walk forward as if being commanded. Watching this, Chung clenches his jaw and says, "The Overlord of this dungeon has to be connected to Wrath. Guess it's finally time we meet face to face." With that, the entire group starts moving in a single direction, like puppets being pulled by invisible strings. Chun follows closely behind them, but now the warning signals in his mind grow even stronger, more intense than before. Soon, they arrive at a place where the figure of the monster still isn't clearly visible. The atmosphere feels heavier, more dangerous. Around the area, there are numerous snake-like creatures slithering across the ground, along with clusters of strange eggs scattered everywhere. Chun moves forward cautiously, his mind racing as he analyzes the situation. Same as Wrath that hypnotizes using an alpha sound frequency, he thinks. "I prepared a counter-frequency beta audio track in advance, just in case I ever faced Wrath again. But these people, they have zero protection against hypnosis right now. Any one of them could drop dead at any second. I need to end this thing fast." Just then, as his gaze fixes ahead, he finally notices a pale white creature. It appears to be saying something, though its form is still not entirely clear. Chun stops in his tracks, standing firm as he focuses entirely on it, carefully listening to whatever it is trying to communicate. The tension in the air rises, as if this moment will decide everything. After that, we are shown a small stick in someone's hand, and a young child standing there. Someone looks at him and says, "Very well. You win again." The child is Gong Ting, just 8 years old. At that moment, his father speaks coldly. The winner gets to come up and eat. The loser kneels there until sunrise. The scene feels harsh, especially considering they are speaking to such a young boy. A moment later, Gong Ting walks up to the table, takes some food, and instead of eating it himself, he carries it over to another child who had lost. He gently offers the food and tells him to eat. The other boy looks at him in shock and whispers nervously, "If Dad catches you, you're going to get. But Gong Ting, with quiet kindness, interrupts and reassures him. Don't worry about that. Just eat. Despite his good intentions, this act of compassion doesn't go unnoticed. Soon after, Gong Ting is brutally beaten as punishment. His father, Gong Lin, then speaks with a cold, dominating presence, saying, "Do you want to know why the Gong family stands where it is today? Because I have never lost, not once. Winners make the rules, and losers follow them. Simple as that." His words echo with authority and pride, but also cruelty. Hearing this, Gong Ting, filled with anger and determination, looked straight at him and asked boldly, "So if I beat you, then the rules are mine to make." Right at that moment, the tension escalates suddenly. A sword is shattered. Silas Lin arrives, effortlessly breaking Gong Lin's weapon. The situation shifts instantly. Struggling to stand, coughing from his injuries, Gong Ting speaks out again, frustration clear in his voice. "I challenged you to a fight. So, why? Why did you sick the king's squad on me?" Even as Silas Lin restrains the situation, Gong Lin responds with chilling confidence. "My strength isn't just what these hands can do. It's the power behind them." Gong Lin continues, his voice firm and absolute, as if carving his beliefs into stone. "The world doesn't play by the rules you think it does, but there is one absolute truth. Win. It doesn't matter how. Only the outcome counts." His words grow even harsher as he looks at his son. "You are my son. That means you are always first even if you have to throw away family, loyalty, your dreams, everything. You win. No exceptions. Because winning is the only reason you're alive." Those words sink deep into the mind of the young boy. In that moment, everything around him fades, and all he can hear is that single truth repeating over and over in his head. Winning is the only reason I'm alive. It becomes more than just a lesson. It becomes a belief etched into his very existence. The scene then shifts back to the present, to the same eerie place where they had encountered that strange and unsettling monster. The atmosphere is tense, heavy with danger. Chun, keeping his composure, mutters under his breath, "I was prepared for this from the start, but no one else here is. I need to end this thing fast." His eyes sharpen with determination as he considers making his move. But just as he's about to act, Gong Ting suddenly stops him. Stepping in, he lowers his voice, but speaks with urgency and control. "I don't know how you slipped past the hypnosis, but I've got my own way of keeping my head straight, so listen carefully. If you make a move now and blow our cover." He pauses for a moment, letting the weight of his words sink in before finishing. "Everyone here dies. All of them." Then, directing Chun's attention towards something even more alarming, he adds quietly, "You see those eggs?" Gong Ting keeps his voice low but urgent as he explains the danger. "If anything sets them off, forget the Overlord. We're talking dozens of C-rank monsters swarming us at once. We're dead, no question." His eyes scan the surroundings carefully before he continues. "That Overlord dressed this place up as a weak dungeon on purpose to bait awakeners in and bleed them dry. That means it'll come to us. My read, we stay hidden. The second it gets close, we hit it together and end it." Chun takes a long breath, clearly surprised, and says, "Didn't think you had that kind of head on your shoulders. But it won't work. This Overlord doesn't need to lift a finger at all. One thought, that's all it takes. And every single person under its spell kills themselves right there." Almost immediately, the three senior members nearby begin to lose control. Their bodies moving as if they're about to turn on themselves. Reacting in an instant, Chun dashes forward and strikes precisely at their necks, knocking all three of them unconscious before they can do anything. Seeing this, the monster's expression twists with fury. Its voice echoes with rage. "Something was slipped into the food. All of you." At that exact moment, the situation spirals out of control. The eggs scattered around them begin to crack open one by one. From inside, creatures identical to the strange monsters they had seen earlier start emerging. Slowly but surely, the numbers grow until an entire army gathers in the area. The massive creature, clearly the leader, roars out a single, "Kill them." Gong Ting clenches his jaw, thinking to himself, "Looks like it's time for the emergency plan." Then he turns sharply to Chun and says, "One thing, just one. Get those three out of the dungeon. I'll keep these things busy." Chun looks at him, stunned by what he's hearing. But Gong Ting continues without hesitation, "I can't take them down, I know that. But I can buy us time. That much, I'll manage." Without waiting for a reply, Gong Ting charges straight into battle, engaging one of the monsters head-on. As he fights, he shouts, "I'm the one who pushed for that tiebreaker. I dragged everyone into this." In response, the monster strikes him with overwhelming force, throwing him violently backward. Even as he struggles to get back on his feet, he forces himself forward again, declaring, "So I'll be the one to clean it up." Watching this unfold, Chun's expression shifts. Realization dawns on him as he says, "Looks like I had you all wrong. But you weren't the only one who said yes to that trial." At that moment, an interface suddenly appears before him, a class change notification. Without hesitation, he accepts it. In an instant, his presence transforms as he steps forward, now equipped with his lightning assessment class. Sparks of energy begin to gather around him as he draws his lightning dagger, positioning himself beside Gong Ting. ready to face the overwhelming swarm together. In front of the boss and the countless monsters surrounding them, only Gong Ting and Chun remained standing, preparing themselves to face the overwhelming threat together. Chun stared directly at the terrifying creature ahead and muttered, "So this is an overload. Boss, I get it now." From behind him, Gong Ting immediately shouted, "No. Absolutely not, Chun. We can't beat this thing. I can feel it. This monster is on a completely different level from either of us, at the very least. It's B rank, no more than that. It's probably already your rank." As he said that, Gong Ting quickly glanced back toward the injured seniors lying behind them. His expression hardened as he spoke in a serious voice, "So grab the others and run. That's it. That's the only chance we've got." For a brief moment, silence filled the dungeon. Then Chung calmly broke it and replied, "Yeah, this thing is a complete nightmare. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But the dungeon gates have already been locked down. If they weren't, the Imperial Guild would have burst into this place already." The moment he heard that, Gong Ting's eyes widened in shock. "What? The gates are locked down?" At the same time, Chun activated his eye ability, focusing all of his attention on the monster as he tried to determine its rank. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't fully read the creature's power. That alone made his heart sink. Inside his mind, Chun muttered grimly, "If this thing really is a rank, then its combat power should be somewhere close to the Phantomane Lion King from the deepest floor of the Dreadspire." At the same moment, the remaining C-rank monsters on the other side immediately began rushing toward them, their monstrous roars echoing throughout the dungeon. As they launched a full assault, one of the creatures leapt straight at Chun, but he instantly raised his thunder blade and blocked the attack head-on. Sparks burst into the air from the impact. Before Chun could even recover, another monster lunged at him from the side, aiming to tear into him while he was distracted. But right then, Gong Ting stepped in without hesitation. With a powerful strike, he intercepted the creature and sent it flying across the battlefield. The monster crashed violently into the ground several meters away. However, the real problem wasn't just one or two enemies. There were still countless C-rank monsters surrounding them from every direction, and now all of them started charging forward together like an unstoppable wave. Watching the terrifying scene unfold, Gong Ting gritted his teeth and said, "It's nitrogen monoxide good. With this many monsters closing in, it's only a matter of time before he could even finish his sentence." Chun suddenly gathered crackling lightning energy into his hand. Bright arcs of electricity exploded around him as he activated one of his skills, Lightning Assassin, Electric Blade. In an instant, dozens of blades forged from pure lightning materialized around him. The glowing electric weapons hummed with destructive energy before Chun fired them forward all at once. The lightning blades tore through the battlefield like a storm, piercing straight through multiple monsters and killing many of them instantly. Explosions of electricity flashed across the dungeon as the creatures collapsed one after another. At the same time, Chun suddenly accelerated with unbelievable speed, activating the Flash God technique. His body became a blur of lightning as he dashed through the horde, moving faster than the monsters could react. He sliced through enemy after enemy while charging straight ahead, leaving behind only shattered bodies and trails of flickering electricity. After witnessing the entire scene with his own eyes, Gong Ting was left completely stunned. His eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at Chun cutting through the battlefield alone. "That's impossible," he shouted. "Assassin-class hunters have terrible base strength. They're practically dead." Wait, in a swarm situation, everything Gong Ting knew about the assassin class told him that fighting against large groups of monsters head-on was suicide. Assassins were supposed to rely on stealth, precision, and isolated attacks, not charge directly into a horde of C-rank monsters alone. Yet the reality unfolding before him completely shattered his understanding. Right in front of his eyes, Chung continued moving through the battlefield like a storm of lightning. Gong Ting stared in shock and continued, "But every single one of his attacks is landing on a vital point. Every time. He's making up for the power gap with nothing but pure speed and technique. The speed he's moving at right now." The scene before him looked almost unreal. Chun had already slaughtered countless monsters by himself, reducing many of them into tiny, shattered pieces as lightning flashed everywhere around him. The dungeon floor was covered with broken corpses while electric sparks danced violently through the air. Seeing this overwhelming display, Gong Ting tightened the grip on his sword even harder and declared, "That's straight up rank. At least." A fierce determination suddenly appeared in his eyes. Powerful energy began erupting from his body as he raised his weapon and said, "We can actually pull this off." But on the other side, the boss monster had also become enraged. A terrifying pressure exploded out from its body, causing the entire dungeon to tremble. Dark and monstrous energy spread across the battlefield like a violent wave. At the same time, the boss began strengthening every remaining monster around it. The C-rank creatures that were already dangerous started evolving further under the influence of that terrifying aura. Their bodies swelled in size, becoming much larger and more monstrous than before, while an even more horrifying energy started pouring out of them. Amidst all of this chaos, Chun stood alone in the center of the battlefield, surrounded by countless empowered monsters staring directly at him. At the same moment, the enhanced monsters charged toward Chun with terrifying speed, roaring as they rushed in to tear him apart. Without wasting even a second, Chun instantly formed to lightning blades in both of his hands. Electricity crackled violently around him as he dashed forward once again. Moving like a flash of light, he sliced across one monster's body and shot past it in a blur. But this time, the cut was far too shallow. The empowered monsters were no longer falling as easily as before. From the backlines, Gongting watched everything unfold while silently thinking, Chun, hang in there. Violent energy continued pouring out from Gongting's body as he gathered more and more power into his weapon. Meanwhile, Chun continued attacking relentlessly. He moved at incredible speed, weaving through the battlefield, while launching countless slashes at the monsters. Lightning streaked through the air with every movement he made, and deep cuts kept appearing across the monsters' bodies. However, unlike before, the attacks were no longer dealing enough damage to bring them down quickly. The enhanced creatures had become far tougher than ordinary C-rank monsters. Several times, the monsters nearly managed to catch Chun during his movements. Massive claws barely missed him as they swung through the air. But every single time, Chun escaped at the last possible instant. He would suddenly appear behind them and counterattack immediately, carving into their bodies from blind spots and leaving severe wounds everywhere he struck. One monster was even grabbed and violently thrown backward by Chun's sheer force, crashing into the others behind it. As he continued fighting nonstop, Chun analyzed the enemies in front of him and muttered grimly, every stat on these enhanced monsters is pushing into B rank, and their shells feel like solid iron. Another slash of lightning flashed across the battlefield as he gritted his teeth and continued, I can't reach their vital points. Not easily. Chun landed several more attacks before creating distance between himself and the monsters. Standing in front of the horde alone, surrounded from every direction, he stared at their hardened bodies and thought to himself, I need a way to crack that armor open first. But at that exact moment, a powerful voice echoed from behind him. Thank you, Chun. Chun immediately turned his head slightly. Behind him stood Gongting, and the energy flowing through his sword had reached an overwhelming level. The weapon itself was trembling from the immense power gathered inside it, while terrifying waves of aura exploded outward from his body. With complete confidence in his eyes, Gongting raised the glowing sword and declared, You've bought me enough time. As the scene shifted, the time was shown to be 17:30. Inside a small rental apartment, Si Yun's classmate finally arrived and apologized the moment she stepped in. Sorry I'm late. The drinks took longer than I thought. Hearing that, Si Yun smiled warmly and reassured her, Don't even worry about it. My brother's not back yet anyway. Her classmate looked surprised and quickly asked, Wait, he's still not home. Does he even know you passed the Academy of Arts exam? Si Yun shook her head lightly before replying, Not yet. But I told him I had something huge to tell him today. He's probably just running late, not wanting the mood to become awkward. Si Yun immediately tried to lighten the atmosphere. Let's just dig in without him, oh shoot. When did we run out of garlic sauce? After realizing it, she quickly stood up and said, Hold down the fort. Leo and I are gonna make a quick run. Ooh, I'll grab snacks too. Tonight we celebrate properly. The scene then cut to Si Yun at a nearby shop, happily picking up the things they needed while Leo stayed close beside her. As they walked out of the store together, Si Yun looked at him with a gentle smile and said affectionately, Leo's such a little angel. Not a peep out of him the whole time. Right after that, the scene showed Leo sitting quietly inside the bag, happily munching on cookies, while acting incredibly friendly towards Si Yun. Watching him behave so obediently made Si Yun laugh softly as she gently rubbed his head and said affectionately, Who's a good boy? I'll get you cookies next time, I promise. With that, the two of them started walking forward through the quiet streets. However, at that exact moment, it was revealed that someone had been secretly watching them from a hidden spot nearby. One of the men kept his eyes fixed on Si Yun and spoke into his device. Right, I've got eyes on her. In his hand was a photograph of Si Yun, making it clear that they had specifically come for her. After confirming her identity, the man calmly asked, Do we move in? A voice immediately responded from the other side of the device. Easy, stay on her. Wait till we're out of camera range. Then we take care of it. Hearing the order, the man nodded slightly and replied, Copy that. As the scene continued, Si Yun kept walking through the streets while the two suspicious men silently followed behind her from a distance, carefully making sure not to lose sight of her. After a short while, Si Yun finally noticed their movements and immediately realized something was wrong. Her expression turned serious as she thought to herself, Those guys have been on my tail since I stepped out of the store. What exactly do they want? She then glanced toward Leo and quietly said, You felt it too, didn't you, Leo? On the other side, Leo had already noticed the two men long ago. The moment he looked at them, his entire attitude changed, and he became visibly angry. His eyes filled with hostility. Realizing the situation was becoming dangerous, Si Yun quickly placed Leo fully inside the bag and warned him in a calm but firm voice, Stay hidden. Don't come out. Then, with a sharp look in her eyes, She slowly continued walking forward and muttered, "Looks like tonight just got interesting." The scene then shifted back to Chun, who was now standing face to face with all of the remaining B-rank monsters. Countless creatures surrounded the battlefield, their overwhelming presence making the situation look nearly impossible to handle alone. Seeing the massive horde in front of him, Chun clenched his fist and admitted to himself that taking care of all of them at once was going to be extremely difficult. But at that exact moment, a powerful voice suddenly echoed from behind him. Gongting. The moment Chun turned around, he saw Gongting standing there with his attack fully charged. An enormous amount of energy had gathered around him, and the pressure coming from his body alone was enough to shake the surroundings. With complete confidence, Gongting stepped forward and declared, "Now it's my turn." A fierce grin appeared on his face as he raised his power even further and shouted, "Here it is my ultimate move." At that moment, it became clear that his strength had reached its absolute maximum. The energy surrounding him surged violently as he aimed his attack straight toward the army of monsters ahead. Then, while roaring at the top of his lungs, Gongting unleashed everything he had. "A rank overlord or not, I'll blast you into nothing." In the very next second, a massive strike exploded forward at incredible speed. The attack tore through the battlefield like a raging storm, instantly erasing every monster standing in its path. One after another, the B-rank monsters were completely annihilated without even getting the chance to resist. The sheer destructive power behind the attack was overwhelming, and the entire battlefield shook violently as the blast continued charging ahead. But the true target was still waiting ahead: the Overlord. The gigantic strike rushed directly toward the Overlord and collided with it head-on. The instant the attack connected, an enormous explosion engulfed the entire area, creating a blinding flash that lit up the battlefield. The force of the impact was so massive that shockwaves spread everywhere, destroying everything nearby. On the other side, after releasing all of that power, Gongting finally dropped down onto one knee. He was breathing heavily, completely exhausted, after using such an overwhelming amount of energy in a single attack. Still trying to catch his breath, he slowly lifted his head and looked toward the battlefield ahead. Scattered across the ground were the dead bodies of countless monsters. Seeing that sight, Gongting let out a tired breath and quietly muttered, "Finally, it's over." Just as Gongting believed the battle was finally over, a chilling sound suddenly echoed through the battlefield. It was laughter. Then a mocking voice rang out from the smoke-filled ruins. "Is that it? Is that really all you've got?" The moment those words were heard, both Chun and Gongting froze in shock. Their eyes widened as they stared ahead in disbelief. Slowly, the smoke cleared, and there stood the Overlord completely unharmed. A powerful barrier surrounded its body, glowing with dense energy that had shielded it from Gongting's devastating attack. Looking down on them with pure contempt, the Overlord sneered and said, "Humans, how disappointing." Gongting's entire body trembled as he stared at the impossible sight before him. In his mind, only one thought remained: "I gave it everything, every last drop I had, and I didn't even scratch it." Chun, however, kept his eyes locked on the monster, his expression growing colder with every passing second. His mind quickly pieced everything together. He realized what had happened at the exact moment Gongting's attack had landed. Right before it got hit, it drained every last bit of energy from the demon eggs and hardened it into a barrier tough enough to withstand anything. Hearing that explanation, Gongting's face turned pale. The hopelessness of the situation finally hit him as he muttered in despair, Is this really how it ends?" But before that fear could settle in completely, Chun suddenly stepped forward. His calm voice cut through the heavy silence as he spoke to Gongting. "Let's make a deal. First place is all yours. The 1 million prize money comes to me." The moment he said those words, a terrifying purple energy began erupting around his body. The atmosphere itself started trembling as his aura expanded violently. And right before Gongting's eyes, Chun's class began to change. Then Chun added one final condition. One condition, though. At that exact moment, an S-grade weapon materialized in his hand, radiating overwhelming power. Its appearance alone was enough to distort the air around it. Chun slowly raised the weapon and completed his sentence in a cold, commanding tone. "Not a single word to anyone about what you're about to see." Gongting's eyes widened in absolute disbelief. A dual-class user. Before he could process what was happening, the battlefield itself began to react. All around them, the lingering life essence, left inside the countless monster corpses, started gathering together. Streams of energy rose from every dead body and converged toward Chun like a massive vortex. Then the truth behind the process was revealed. Stellar Warrior, Ossuary Collapse. A terrifying ability that drains stamina and strength from nearby corpses, converting all of it directly into the user's own power. As the skill activated, Chun's power began rising at an absurd rate. The pressure erupting from his body became so overwhelming that even Gongting was forced to shield his face with his arms just to endure it. The ground cracked beneath Chun's feet, and the air around him trembled under the sheer force of his presence. Even the Overlord, who had looked down on them moments ago, now stood silently watching. And then, with absolute confidence in his voice, Chun pointed his weapon toward the monster and declared, "Like I said, this Overlord, I've got it."